Shalom to each and everybody. I hope that you guys are blessed today. I hope that you've been blessed, and I hope that the truth and the words are helping to form a new picture in your life. So much going on, and so much that's coming out and being revealed, and sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming for me. So I can certainly understand if sometimes you feel a little bit overwhelmed. I think that's an appropriate response. So we're going to pick up where we have been, looking at the effects of righteousness. How does righteousness? How did it come into our understanding? What does it actually mean to be righteous? And how do we then begin a journey to try to accomplish that? And of course, I can't think of anything that's more honorable than that. So, shalom to each and every one of you. As I said, I hope Elohim is blessing you, and you can see his blessings. We're going to be in chapter 10 of the book of Jubilees after we pray together, and so let's do that. Father, bless you today. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your word. Thank you for the truth that you want to show us today. I just bless you. I ask you to be with us, help us, and guide us. Amen. All right. Well, we're looking at righteousness. To be righteous, and what righteousness is, how it was lived out in the past in front of us. The more I study and the more I see, the more I recognize that we really don't, in many ways, and there's reasons why we don't have the picture and the view, and we lack understanding, and just a whole host of other things that have come along, and it's all due inevitably to wickedness and the if I can use the term, messing with Elohim's words, which has quite prominently been done. I assure you here, I'll show you over the next few weeks that actually we have multiple biblical authors who tell us that the word had been corrupted by people. So I think that's quite important in the year 2024 when, who knows, we might be waiting for 3 days of darkness and then the rapture. It's hard to say at this point. Everything is up in the air. So chapter 10 of the book of Jubilees, quite astounding statement here. There's some principles. I'm going to slow down and stop and try to maybe bring out some thoughts that we need to grab a hold of. I will show you in the next few weeks that the words that I've said are absolutely very appropriate, and there will be another voice that says exactly the same thing that you'll see soon, that it's very hard for people, once they have grown up and indoctrinated in a belief system, it's very difficult for them to wipe that away and to begin a new belief system. So I guess there's some biblical truth to it. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. On the other side, I think a smart dog is capable of learning new tricks. So we have to then kind of judge amongst ourselves, what is right and what is wrong. And so that's going to be a big piece. So chapter 10 of the book of Jubilees. And in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean devils began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to err and to destroy them. And each one of these little phrases really has so much context. I suspect that I could spend hours in some situations just clarifying some things that maybe we don't really look at very much. But first off, we then see, so here we have Noah, okay? I was told my whole life, and there was lots of questioning and struggling uh, amongst semi-believers, that the flood never happened. Certainly that's a prevalent thought process out there. And then that the flood did happen, but we don't understand how all of this stuff happened. Well, as Elohim always is, knowing the end before the beginning, he also knew the struggles that we would go through. He knew the things we would encounter. He knew the things that would be corrupted, so that we would have to struggle, and all of those things are actually quite according to his plan at that level. So those are some things that we have been taught otherwise about, and we will look at them in the near future. So in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean devils began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah. So you could start and ask the question, the unclean devils. Well, if we can quantitate what they are, then if there's unclean ones, is that to say that there's also clean ones? See, I'm going to show you that it's an old teaching about the balancing of differences. Nothing in Elohim's kingdom, nothing that exists in this world is alone. There's always a counter, because the counter proves the original. And there's some things that are really, really mind-boggling. And in the third week of this Jubilee, the unclean devils begin to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to make to err and to destroy them. So then it's simple enough for us to grab a hold of and say, well, unclean devils are all about getting you to err. Or you could say transgress, you could say sin. They all mean the same thing. There is a spirit world that has absolutely nothing else to do but to try to cause us to trip up and to fall, so that we shame. There's another big piece all on its own. But so that we shame through our failure Elohim. And because we don't understand that this isn't what we were told it is, heaven isn't just some protected place where God sits on a throne by himself and there's a bunch of angels sitting around crying, holy, 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 and we all stand in awe looking at him. This is a very active place. There are many spirit forces, both good and bad, that function in the realm of Elohim. And so the unclean devils begin to lead astray, and the children of the sons of Noah, and to make to err and to destroy them. So we can then also grab a hold of a true revelation that as we err, it is destruction for us. The error are not just so that we err. Hasatan comes, our adversary comes, and that's not always necessarily in that concept talking about a demon. We have many human Hasatans that desire to cause us destruction by trying to coerce us into breaking his command. They're doing, whether they recognize it or not, they are either, number one, being overridden by a demonic spirit which is using them against you, or it's just proof of how unclean they are inside of you, inside of themselves. Which is how our society could get to the point that it is, that we can no longer discern what right and wrong, up and down, all of those things, boy, girl. I mean, I don't have a problem looking at a human and going, you're not a cat and you don't get a litter box. But there's some that struggle with those things. I would have to say probably to their own demise. So, and the sons of Noah came to Noah, their father, and they told him concerning the devils, which were leading astray, and they were blinding and slaying his sons' sons. So Shem, Ham, and Japheth come to their dad and they say, hey, Dad, man, we recognize that these demonic spirits are killing our kids. Can you help us? We don't think about life and the world in that view, but that's exactly what was going on. And he prayed before Yehovah Eloheinu and said, Elohim of the Ruachoth of all flesh. So here's another piece that we have to kind of catch our breath and grab a hold of. All of the spirits are under his authority. He is the father of the Elohim, the Ruach, the Ruachoth, the spirit of all flesh, who has shown mercy unto me and has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition. For your grace, your power, your empowering force has been great towards me. So you've empowered me greatly to do what I did so that I could be obedient to you. So there is certainly a good question. The scriptures, we can find places where it says that without grace we can't do anything. And the only place that you can receive grace, which is not unmerited favor, but is typically the empowerment of you to do something you outside of yourself could never do. That's why we are, according to the New Testament, we are saved by grace through faith. We are saved by the power of Elohim by believing in Elohim is what that was supposed to mean. Now, that's not what Christianity tells you it means. But that is the principle. That is correct. For your grace, your power has been great towards me, and great has been your mercy to my soul. So why did Noah need such great mercy? Can I tell you today? He wasn't being empowered to do the things on his own. He was being empowered by Elohim to do them, and he needed mercy because he, like us, is human. And has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition. For your grace has been great towards me, and great has been your mercy to my soul. Let your grace be lifted up upon my sons, and let not the wicked Ruachoth rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. So is it possible, had Elohim chose to not? You see, this now gets out of Noah's hands, and this is now a problem, a situation between Elohim and the Ruachoth. And you will find out Elohim is greatly functioning in that realm, much more so than we've been taught. So let not the wicked Ruachoth rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do you bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. So listen at that statement coming from the heart of a father. He listens to his sons come and tell him that these demonic spirits are causing my children to err, which causes death. Remember a thing that we oftentimes forget, and you're going to find that elsewhere a little later in this as well, that there are many things that we might not quite get because it's been so blocked and perverted from us because the heart is corrupt. But is it possible that if Noah had not continued to be righteous and had not continued to walk in rightness before Elohim, that these demonic spirits would have completely destroyed his grandsons? And I would propose to you today, the answer is not yes, but Yes, they would have. And you're going to find out why. They actually tell you here in just a minute. They tell you, the spirits tell you why. My, how simple our minds are, friends. Can I tell you that we are really a narcissistic society? And we're so self-centered that we, without some empowerment outside of ourselves, the mass majority of people could never even begin to find the truth, much less even know they needed the truth. That's how much you believe about yourself. So he says, and let not the Ruach rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. So there was an opportunity, there was an open door that Noah was well aware of, that the potential for destroying the whole earth had not yet ended. It still reverberates through the times, even to this very day. But do you bless me and my sons that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth? Why? Because the earth had already been plenished once. And you know how your watchers, hold on here, and you know how your watchers, now this is Noah praying to Elohim about his watchers. The fathers of these Ruach, so everything that was flesh and blood living on this earth, whether Anakim or Nephilim or any of those other things, all of those things that were before, including all humans except those that went on the earth, everything was destroyed. The problem is because those are the children of watchers, the watchers didn't just stop because there was a great flood. They didn't die. He didn't destroy them yet. So what did they do? They continued on doing what they had been doing, even after the flood. And you know how your watchers, the father of these, Ruach, so then his watchers were the father of these evil spirits, which we started this out talking about unclean devils. So who is he calling the children of these watchers? The unclean devils. They are spiritual beings. Acted in my day, and as for these Ruach which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my Elohim, for these are malignant and created in order to destroy. So see, he doesn't put an indictment against these Ruach as being something that they even have the power to change. In fact, he has understanding and wisdom to know that they were created for that purpose. Now, I don't believe that necessarily Elohim created them for the point of destruction. I believe that that was an outworking of the will of the watchers by disobeying Elohim's commands. Remember, the children of wicked people are wicked. So it would then stand to reason, if that principle functions here, I assure you it's much bigger in the spirit realm, that the children of wicked watchers are also wicked. And you know how your watchers, the father of these spirits, the father of these Ruach, acted in my day before the flood. It doesn't say that, but that's implied. And as for these Ruach which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation. I believe they're locked away in hell, the 90%. The place of condemnation is the place where all humans go who will not accept and walk the path and the ordination that Elohim has for them. That's the place where the condemned go. That's where the spirit forces are today. And let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my Elohim. For these are malignant and created in order to destroy. So when something is in order, that means it's fulfilling its purpose. So these spirits were created to destroy. No other purpose than to destroy humans. And let them not rule over the Ruachoth of the living. Why? Because they were. A really interesting find in several things that are going on, dear friends. But I told you 2 years ago that Elohim said to me that the spirit of homosexuality was not the greatest of spirits that are functioning. In fact, he told me that he was going to allow other spirits that were infinitely more powerful than the spirit which has turned our society on its ear, so much so confusion that people cannot even discern right and wrong, good or bad, male or female. And folks, they're all the same. If you think when you read in the book of Revelation that woe unto those who call evil good is not referring to woe unto those who call a boy a girl, you're wrong. Horribly, horribly deceived and wrong. And so let not rule over the Ruachoth of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them. So ask yourself a question. If Elohim alone has dominion over them, why isn't Elohim doing anything to stop them? Is it possible that he uses them as cleaners? I call them the scavengers of the water. I call them the catfish and crabs. All unclean food is a metaphoric picture of unclean spirits. They go along feeding on the bottom. They want to eat what? They want to eat the souls of man. If you can get that metaphoric picture in your mind. And so let them not rule over the Ruachoth of the living. I pretend to you today, dear friend, that in all of these situations which we can make no sense of, in those people, the Ruachoth of these devils are ruling. You want to know what is driving this whole upside down agenda of our society? That's why it's so horrible when you condone it, whether it's your family or whether it's friends or whether it's co-workers. When you condone that nonsense, you are just as guilty as if you had laid down in bed with her yourself. I know many people won't believe that. Oh, well, the society's telling me I should be all inclusive. Well, good, then die by society, friend. It's one or the other. You either live by Elohim or you die by society. And so let them not rule over the Ruachoth of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them, and let them not have power over the sons of the righteous from henceforth and forevermore. And I would like to tell you that doesn't mean all humans. The only protection there is for you against demonic forces is to be a son of the righteous. There is no other protection for you. Everyone who does not care, does not believe about Elohim's words are not protected from these demonic forces. And the ones I've mentioned are just a couple of many. The prayer was to protect the righteous. Why is it important that we be righteous? Because, friends, without righteousness, it is your only protection. If Elohim will not look at you, I'm quite sure he's not going to save you. Is anybody hearing me? Now, do the righteous have to be concerned about Elohim? I guess that depends on how you define, in this context, concern. Do I need to be concerned that Elohim's going to fail? Absolutely not. Can I be quite assured and quite confident that Elohim is not going to fail? Absolutely. Now, if I'm not walking in the line of the righteous, then guess what? I have every reason to be concerned. And we're going to find some of these things out, why bad people get away with bad things and good people suffer for their goodness. That's actually not a hidden secret. In fact, it's actually quite old. And it is the truth. And so Noah's prayer wasn't that he protect all the humans. Noah's prayer is that you watch over the sons of the righteous. Do any of us know if Elohim ever considered his sons to be righteous? I haven't ever seen it. If it's there, I haven't seen it. Did you notice the wording means everything? The sons of the righteous. Wow. So Elohim then does pay heed. And I'm sorrowful, ladies, I know that this toxic femininity that lives in our society would like to tell you, well, that includes women. But in this concept, it doesn't include women at all. He's talking about the sons, the men. Can I show you a picture with that? Because I know it's very undesirable to all the modern day feminist women that are out there, and most women are feminist at some levels, because we've been programmed with that in our society. So even if you're a good woman and even if you're trying to be submissive, you still have feminism in you that you have to fight with. I'm going to show you in a couple of weeks why that is. It was a beautiful revelation today that I got. It's hard to deal with, and my mind is kind of like turned to mush because of it. But it is in fact a fact that the things that go on in our life around us, all the things, are all seed in our minds. And once that seed is planted, you have to work really hard to dig that seed up. That's why you'll hear me with foreknowledge and not having written scholarly knowledge, but through foreknowledge only. I tell you constantly that you must unlearn Christianity or you will be doomed. Not if, it's a fact. You cannot believe me, that doesn't make me wrong. And Yehovah Eloheinu bade us to bind all. Now, you understand, you hear this narrative going on in the background of someone talking, okay? That someone is an angelic being. This whole book is narrated by an angelic being. Just so you understand why it comes off sounding like it does. And Yehovah Eloheinu bade us to bind all. Was he telling Noah to bind all? Did Noah have the power to go bind all the demons? No, that's how I've known this, and I haven't said anything. I was just hoping as we go through here, some of you would pick up on it, that this is a narrative that's coming. It's ascribed to being Moshe written, and it was voiced to Moshe through an angelic host, which is how we receive revelation. So this was actually a revealing. And Yehovah Eloheinu bade us to bind all, and the chief of the Ruachoth, Mastema, so we don't need to call him Satan, you know, the devil with the red horns and the pitchfork, the head, preeminent power of the fallen watchers, has a name. His name is Mastema. He's not hidden from Yah. He doesn't run from Yah. He stands in front of Yah. He listens to Yah. So we have this Christian concept about this devil and about this Jesus God. I'm going to show you in a few weeks how, whether you know it or not, you have been, wow, It's not good, folks. Pray to Yehovah in Yehovah's name only. Let me just give you that seed and stop, because otherwise we'll be 5 hours from now. And the chief of the spirit, so the head of these spirits, Mastema, came. Where did he come? Now, would Noah have been in the presence of Elohim and seen this? So how would he know where he came? Something else outside of Noah, something else out of humanity had to be transcribing this to someone that was writing it down I said in English, but writing it down in language. Okay? So I want you to get a hold of that. It's very important that we grab that. This is being transcribed from the heavenlies through an angelic host to Moshe, if in fact Moshe is even the one who wrote it down. And said, this is what Mastema said. Yehovah, so does he know his name? Is he a stranger to him? Has he never been around him? Has he never seen him? Does he not know him? We find in the other place where it says that the devil actually, I would believe that was actually Mastema, again, speaking with the Elohim. And so Mastema, the head of the fallen, corrupt ones, says, Yehovah, Creator, let some of them remain before me. Why does he go to Elohim and make an appeal that Elohim leave some of these? That's pretty huge. And let them hearken to my voice. So I want you to give them a supernatural ear to hear me. If y'all let something hearken, that means he gives you the ability to hear that something. And so Mastema standing in the presence of the Most High. We have a corrupt idea about sin coming into the presence, or Mastema, friend, is not sin. Because sin can't come in the presence of Elohim, and here Mastema stands in the presence of Elohim. Not once, but twice. And let them remain before me. We understand the before me thing. I've been showing you that the righteous remain before Elohim. In other words, the righteous are in front. The righteous are in Elohim's vision. And Mastema is saying, look, I want you to let some remain in my vision. And do all that I shall say unto them, for if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. Is anybody awake today? I would like to tell you what he is in doing is like somebody down here invoking their First Amendment rights. If you look at what he just said to Elohim, he said, Elohim, he didn't say this, but you can see this if you understand what I'm talking about. Elohim, now you know I have the right to a free will. And if you do this thing and lock them all up, there won't be any for me to fulfill my will. Elohim says, okay, you're right. You have a rule. You have a right to fulfill your will. What do you think Elohim is looking? Do you not look around and see, friends, whether it's abortion, whether it's sexuality, whether it's lying, whether it's thieving, whether it's coercion, whether it's war? All of those things are the will of a spirit force. Why is America one of the largest whoremongers of war? Because we are controlled by a demonic entities. Actually, many demonic entities run this country. And they only have single purposes that fulfill the will of Mastema. We really should have learned the Bible and not so much about Christianity. and let them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. And he's crying foul to Elohim. Not okay for you to take that away from me. You created me with a will, and now you're going to take it away? Is anybody, the hair's standing up on my head, friend. I'm sorry if you're spiritually dead, you won't hear what I'm saying. But this right here is huge. That demons have a will. Why didn't Elohim just destroy him? And tell him, hey, I'll show you who runs this thing. We just found out prior that Elohim has dominion. He could have looked at Mastema and said, tough. Why did he not? In fact, he agrees with him. You're right, Mastema. If I take all of your demons away from you and none of them hearken to you and you don't have anything, you can't do anything to humans anymore because you don't have any corrupt ones, then I have taken your will away and I'm wrong for that. Do I believe Elohim is wrong? Absolutely not. In fact, we're going to find that out in some later teachings a few weeks down the road, that anytime something or someone tells you Elohim was wrong, that's a dead giveaway that they're not from him. Elohim is not wrong, friends. Elohim is doing what's right, what's just as he is with you. And so I shall not be able to execute the power of my will. Doesn't that sound exactly like the verbiage that is being used for abortion? How many times on TV have you watched women say, it's my body, I can do what I want to with it? Nothing to do with the love your neighbor, the little baby that's inside of you. Nothing to do with love your neighbor. It's all about me, my will. This is my body. Guys, don't you see how huge this spiritual thing is? We're totally blind and ignorant, and Christianity wanted it that way. Why? Because Christianity is a vehicle of Mastema's will. How do I know that? Because they do everything to defy Elohim's word, to destroy humans. I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men, for these are for corruption and leading astray. Look at it. Once again, self-centeredness before my judgment. So when the scripture tells us that Mastema comes but to steal, kill, and destroy, he knows. We find that out. We find the prophet in the New Testament, the true words that he did say. He does say that. It is there, amidst a whole bunch of corrupt dialogue written by Rome. I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men, for these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment, for great is the wickedness of the sons of men. So you're not going to let me do my will before you judge me. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation, to the pit. And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines. Now I want you to see this. Mastema did not, Elohim commanded. One of these, who? Not one of Mastema, not one of the wicked, one of the narrative watchers that's telling us this. And he commanded them to teach them their. Did you see that there? Sometimes you have to question, what's that there for? And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines. all of the angelic medicines that exist. And there's even something more. For he knew that they would not walk in uprightness, nor strive in righteousness. Did you catch it? Or did you not catch it? You just heard words. Maybe you didn't get what was actually said right there. Do you know why Elohim taught the sons of men the medicines of the heavenlies? Was because we would transgress. If we had not transgressed, we would have had zero need for medicine. So I can then say to you, dear one, diabetes is a curse from the heavens. Cancer is a curse from the heavens. AIDS is a curse from the heavens. And on and on and on and on. All diseases come because of, well, we have more doctors, we have more medications, we have more pharmacology than ever in recorded history, and we also have tenfold more sick. Remember, food was also given to us for medicine. Mastema that functions in man has polluted food to such that it is no longer a medicine for your body. It now causes disease. Wow. You mean there's a biblical reason why we shouldn't be partaking of GMOs? You mean there's a biblical reason why we shouldn't be eating so-called food that's got more chemicals in it than it has food? You mean there's a reason why these mental sicknesses are going on and it's coming right out of the medicine that was given to us, which is food from the earth? My goodness. You mean that's real? And because Elohim is foreknowing, he knew that we would not follow him. He didn't say there weren't any that wouldn't follow him, dear one. He just said the world is not going to follow me. He knew that. It's not new. He doesn't sit around and weep because hell's going to enlarge its mouth by the virtue of the amount of people who refused him. He just sends them to the pit. I mean, if he was going to weep over something, wouldn't he have wept over the 90 watchers who fell? Or 90% of watchers, which, just so you know, we don't know how many there were. There were probably millions of angelic hosts that came down on this earth. So this 10th, think about that. This is all based on a 1/10 of 100% of the angelic host. Well, what if that angelic host, let's just pick a number, say 1 billion. What if there was 1 billion angelic hosts that had freedom to come down and fly all over this earth? And they came down and they were flying around and needed some deviousness to do. And they said, wow, look how pretty women are. And so they began all of that nonsense. Then they watched their sons, the Rephaim, be killed and kill each other out till almost in existence. Flood comes. The angelic hosts are still angelic hosts, folks. They didn't get destroyed by the water. And they say, oh, well, hey, look, it's over with. Let's go back down and let's start all over again. Because we haven't changed our course. Remember, this is all going on after Noah has been through the flood. So Elohim was kind because of the wickedness he knew we would do, that he commanded one of the good angels to teach Noah the medicines because he knew we were going to be sick. If you remember right, you go back to the book of Exodus, you hear that the children of Israel were not sick, and if they obeyed Elohim, they would not be sick. See, it's the same principle all over again, friend. In the mouth of 2 or 3 things, something will be established. You have to first validate that that thing is real in the first place, but this certainly is. For he knew that they would not walk in uprightness. Wow, that's foreknowledge. Nor strive in righteousness, which is where we're at today, friends. Strive has the concept of working, diligent drudgery. It's hard to walk righteously. It's not easy. It's easy to just be a sinner. Just let your guard down. And so these angelic hosts did according to all the words. All of the malignant evil ones were bound in the place of condemnation, and a tenth part of them were left that they might be subject before, now see, they go from mastema to Satan. Only because the Satan is always just an adversary. Who is our adversary? The head, all of them are, but the head adversary is mastema. We just learned that. And I've taught that to you several times. So we keep calling on the devil, and devil is a generic name for every wicked spirit. Wow. And a tenth part of them we left that they might be subject before the adversary on the earth. Who's the adversary? The one who is the accuser of the brethren. Did you see back up there where Mastema is talking? When he says a statement in Elohim, he says, well, they're wicked. So it's like, why do you care, Elohim? Let me kill them, man. They're wicked. Let me punish them, hurt them, make their lives miserable, destroy them. Elohim says they're wicked. I ain't going to stop you. Wow. And we explained to Noah, once again, the angelic host that's teaching him about medicines. And we explained to Noah all the medicines of, once again, their diseases. So the diseases that came are the diseases that we have. Now, they were their diseases, now they're our diseases. Together with their seductions. You want to know why homosexuality is popping and nobody can explain why it's moving so fast? Because it is nothing but a seduction by demonic forces. That's all it is, friend. It's spiritual. Every bit of it. You want to know why we have a president that can stand and every day he stands in front of a microphone, lie to the American people, and they stupidly look on and accept that nonsense as truth? It's a spirit. Together with their seductions. Many people would just read over that and never even stop and give thought about that. So it wasn't just the diseases, it had to do also with the seductions. And Elohim's medicine actually dealt with the seductions as well. How he might help them with the herbs of the earth. So when you hear somebody like Doug and Stacy say that your food is your medicine, they're 100% biblically correct. Our food is supposed to be our medicine. But we're now so full of pollutants by the food that we have. Men have bellies that look like they're pregnant, and they take some kind of medicine to stuff their cells full of insulin, even though their cells are so full of insulin they refuse anymore. We now cram it and force it to go in there because we refuse to change our diets. So we then live a horrible life, have our feet, legs, hands, arms cut off, and then die in pain. What a blessing, huh? I'm here to tell you, Yehovah is all about what we eat. I remember back to my Christian days when we used to laugh about pork, and I got to be honest with you, I was the jolly fool. I believed what Rome wrote through the mouth of Jesus, that all food was clean, now go eat all of it. I was ignorant. I'm not ignorant anymore. I had somebody leave my church because they said, well, my daddy said God don't care if we eat pig or not. Oh, wow. Good for your daddy. How's he doing? Oh, he's sick as heck with diabetes and can't get around. And well, there you go, friend. Truth always justifies itself, dear one. I hope you guys know that, but truth always justifies itself. And Noah wrote down all of these things in a sefer, as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil Ruachoth were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. Do you see how it was no help to anybody except his sons? Why? Because the only reason for medicine was to help the righteous. And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son, for he loved him exceedingly above all of his sons. And Noah slept with his fathers and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed in his life, 19 jubilees, 2 weeks, and 5 years. And in his life on earth he excelled the children of men, with the exception of Hanuk. So the only one that was more righteous than Noah was Enoch. Does it make you any wonder why we have never learned this before in Christian church and the book of Enoch has been outcast? It should. If you don't, I'm sorrowful for you, but you should be questioning why. Wherein he was perfect. And in his life on earth, he excelled the children of men, save or except Hanuk, because of the righteousness wherein he was perfect. Don't tell me you can't live perfect. I have a biblical account now of a man who lived a perfect life, and guess what? His name wasn't Jesus. For Hanuk's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world. So in other words, what I've been telling you is true. We really should stop what we're doing and listen to the man speaking when Elohim says that you have an ordained path, and you oftentimes haven't even given care to what my ordained path for you is. It's what you do. Elohim gave a word to me I'm going to share with every one of you. He said that many of you are worshiping your gift, and your gift has nothing to do with anything. But look at what his purpose was. In other words, all of us have a purpose. And we won't find out unless we listen to the truth. For Hanuk's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world. All of them. And so that he should recount, that means to count again, the deeds of all generation unto generation until the day of judgment. So in those 364 books that we don't possess, lie the recounting of every generation from now until judgment day. Can I tell you? In Enoch's book, there is a book of us. This generation is not unknown to him. I don't know about you, that's pretty huge. You mean that all of this stuff is not so strange? Elohim isn't sitting up there looking perplexed? Not a bit, friend. He knows exactly where we're at. When he speaks to me, he speaks as a contemporary who is here right now with me, because he is, but he doesn't speak to me in archaic English. That he should recount all the deeds of generation unto generation till the day of judgment. So there wasn't any that's missed. He saw every one of them. Enoch did. Elohim already knew that before he ever created this place. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the first year, in the second week, Peleg took to himself a woman whose name was Lomna, the daughter of Sinar, and she bore him a son in the 4th year of this week, and he called his name Reu. For he said, behold, the children of men have become evil through the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shinar. For they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar, for in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, go to, and let us ascend thereby into heaven. So man was trying to make a way into heaven of his own. Guess what? Man is still trying to make a way into heaven of his own. They will discount and throw the Torah away and give you a false belief system so that you can what? Get to heaven. That's actually, that forming a picture is becoming a dead giveaway. When somebody tells you that they're getting to heaven, it means that they either know what they're saying or they are ignorant and oblivious to what they're saying. The purpose is not to go to heaven. Never has been. That's Christian dogma created by the Romans so that you would be defeated. Remember, Mastema does what? He only wants to destroy people. However he needs to do that. If he can get you to pray in another name than Elohim's name, which is an abomination. It's so crazy. These things bring massive revelation. It's real simple to change a few words in a scripture that say pray to Elohim to pray to Jesus. And you're now an abomination to Yah. For they departed from the land of Ararat, eastward to Shinar, for in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, go to, and let us ascend thereby into heaven. That sounds like Christian doctrine. Go to church, get washed in the blood, abomination, and you can go to heaven. Don't you see it, guys? It's the same thing. And they began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the bricks served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt, which comes out of the sea and out of the fountains of water in the land of Shinar. We know that that's the very place that hates the Jews right now. I'm going to show you some interesting stuff here that is really mind-boggling how quickly some of these things manifest. And they built it. 43 years were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height amounted to 5,430 and 3 cubits and 2 palms, and the extent of one wall was 13 stades, and of the other 30 stades. So we know then it's a rectangle, not a square like they show us pictures of. It's not round like they show us pictures of. And Yehovah Eloheinu said unto us, the angelic beings, behold, they are one people, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be withheld from them. Go to, and let us go down and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Now, if you're a modern day Christian, you're going to say, oh, that's God, that's Jesus came down here. In fact, I read an article written by, I'm sure, a wonderful Christian man, how many times Jesus has been on the earth. Not one of those times was him. Every one of them was attributed to Yehovah. And behold, they are one people, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be withheld from them. Go to, let us go down, confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, and that they may be dispersed into cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them until the day of judgment. Can I tell you why there's so much confusion? Because we're coming close to the day of judgment. But I will tell you, you've heard these words before. Anybody heard of a new world order? Anybody heard of a one world government? Isn't that? Now, I just read to you that Elohim says that will never happen before the day of judgment. So before they get that instituted in fullness, judgment will come. Friends, that could be 5 years from now at the rate we're going. Wow. This thing is really right on, spot on, folks. If you'll look at the signs of what this talks about, and if you are given wisdom and foreknowledge, you will be able to see how it's exactly what we're doing today. And Jehovah descended, and we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech, and they ceased then to build the city and the tower. For this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, which we know as Iraq, because Jehovah did there confound all the language of the children of men, and from thence they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. And Jehovah sent a mighty wind against the tower, and overthrew it upon the earth, and behold, it was between Asher and Babel in the land of Shinar, and they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week in the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 24th Jubilee, were they dispersed from the land of Shinar, and Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he had acquired. Now, if you will go back and read chapter 8 and 9, you will find out that all of this, the land that was over there was divided in Noah's presence with his sons and his grandsons. And they all swore an oath, and I'm speaking ahead, but I'm going to show you something at the end of this chapter, which is kind of pretty cool. And Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. And Canaan, so we know the Canaanites, or the Canaan, and the Canaanites inhabited a specific place. Don't we know that? And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Mitzrayim, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that is to the sea, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward, from the border of the Jordan and from the border of the sea. And Ham, his father, and Cush, and Mitzrayim, his brothers, said unto him, You have settled in a land which is not yours, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so. For if you do so, you and your sons will fall in the land and be accursed through sedition. For by sedition you have settled it. Remember the principle. Whatever you do, that's what you get. It just is always the same, friends. Do not dwell, do not in the, and be accursed through sedition, for by seditions you have settled, and by sedition will your children fall. You shall be rooted out forever. I think that you can take that to mean that you will be forever rooted out. In other words, there's never going to be an end of this chasing you out of this country that you took illegally. I'm sorrowful. Don't we have that going on in Rafah right now? Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem. So we know that the Shemites, the Semites, the Ibaru were all children of Shem. So we even now know what land that Canaan took over. It was Shem's land to begin with. Now do you see why it is their land? It is a forever covenant, folks. It's never going to cease. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, for to Shem and to his sons did it come by their lot. That wasn't given to you. Cursed are you, and cursed shall you be beyond all of the sons of Noah by the curse by which we bound ourselves by an oath in the presence of the holy judge and in the presence of Noah our father. But he did not hearken unto them, and he dwelt in the land of Lebanon from Hamath to the entering of Mitzrayim, he and his sons, until this day. And for this reason the land is named Canaan. And Japheth And his son went toward the sea and dwelt in the land of their portion. And Medah saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him. And he begged a portion from Elam and Asher and Aphaxad, his woman's brother. And he dwelt in the land of Medah, near to his woman's brother until this day. And he called his dwelling place and the dwelling place of his sons Medah, after the name of their father Medah. Did you see the difference there? One took it by force and the other begged for acceptance to go there. Do you see any curses against him? I want to show you something real quickly. Go with me, if you would, to chapter 9, I believe it is. Oh. Man, I should have wrote that down. Give me just a second. I'll find it here. Here you go. Chapter 9, verse 14. So it's actually just preceded chapter 10 that we just went through. Now we're at the end of chapter 10 and the curse is being invoked. My point, I wanted to show you why that curse didn't just come. That curse was something that we can know. Look at this. And thus the sons of Noah divided unto their sons in the presence of Noah their father, and he bound them all by an oath, imprecating a curse on every one that sought to seize the portion which had not fallen to him by his lot. And they all said, so be it, so be it. Amen and amen. For themselves, for their sons forever, throughout their generations, until the day of judgment, on which Jehovah shall judge them with a sword and with fire for all of their unclean wickedness of their errors, wherewith they have filled the earth with transgression, uncleanness, fornication, and sin. Now you know why the conflict with Israel is going on. It is because of this curse. And Shem is not going to give up because they are the rightful owners of that property, no matter whether you believe it or not. Wow. Can I tell you, for me, it was like, that's so wonderful, because I'm watching 5,000 years later, I'm watching what I just read to you. I'm watching it right in front of us on television, friends. Now, blessed is those who bless Israel, and cursed are those who curse Israel. Has anybody heard what the president's been doing all of a sudden? Have you heard what our political leaders in our Congresses and our Senates are wanting and desirous to do against the people of Israel? You should be scared to death. Wow. Boggles my mind, friend. There ain't no way you can make this up. There's no way 5,000 years ago they knew that we were going to be sitting here in 2024 watching battles with the same people who illegally took the land, try to illegally take the land again. Aren't they really taking it by sedition? So has their moral character and aptitude changed in 5,000 years? Or are they not really the same people that they were 5,000 years ago? That's what I say. Thank you, Yehovah, for loving some who would attune their heart to your words that they might hear learning. Let's pray. We're going to take a break here. We're going to come back a bit. We're not going to have music today. We have We have one pray for him that's sick, and we're going to take a break and get our bread together to break. And I wanted to say with that, I would highly recommend it. I think it would be quite beneficial to you if you begin to make that little shift there and partake of your bread with salt as in an act of friendship. If you do it with us while we're here, then even through the television and the internet, it's an interconnection of friendship. If you think none of it means anything, well, then you're no different than the rest of the world as far as that goes anyway. As far as, because I'm sure it will be asked by someone, well, is it okay for me to drink wine? I don't have any rules to prevent you from drinking wine. Yeah, you don't need to lift it as the blood. If you want a glass of wine, get a glass of wine. When I want a gummy, I don't have to go through some ritual. I just get it. So the truth of the matter is, dear friends, we've been sadly deceived on 1,000 different levels, and Elohim is being kind. He is trying to show us the path that doesn't seem right to men. That's the one I want to walk on, because the other one is the road to destruction. So we're going to pray, and we'll take about 10 minutes or so, 10 minutes, use the bathroom, get our bread and stuff, and then we'll be back. Shalom to each and every one of you. Let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you for these amazing words, these principles that you've shown us, how you just lay it out there in front of us, and then it manifests itself 5,000 years later, still going on. Your prophetic words never fail. Forever with you means forever. Your commandments are forever. We just have to find out which ones are your commandments. And so I bless you today. I thank you for loving us. I thank you for your kindness you've shown to me this week, the way that you've spoken to me lovingly and encouraged me to go on. I just ask you that you be with us. I ask that you guide us, that we walk in victory. You have a plan. You have foreknowledge about what today and tomorrow and 10,000 years is to come. And so I thank you for being trustworthy and merciful. Amen. All righty. We'll see you guys in just a bit. Shalom. All right. Well, shalom to everybody. We're glad to be back. Hope you guys got a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. And it's very important that we do those things. You'll actually, I believe it's today, you will hear some of that come up, that Peter was very conscious of the state of the people around him. And I don't know that I've always been that, but I can tell you without question I desire to be that. Any of you ever come to the point that maybe you recognize that you're not all the things you would like to be, but you still want to be those things nonetheless? Well, Elohim desires for us to continue on. Just because we're not today doesn't mean we may not have a victory tomorrow. So, once again, shalom to each and every one of you. Really profound stuff that my mind is going about 1,000,000 miles an hour about all the things that there are to show you. What a blessing that the righteous have, that they have Elohim's face, and because they have his face, they have his protection. And I've often in the past, when I wandered more, wondered, why does it seem like this stuff happens to some people, and to some people it's like it just goes right on by them. And of course, obviously, we have to define what the stuff is, but what a huge amount of blessing that you're going to have as we go through this. There's going to be things maybe that cause you to struggle. There's going to be things that maybe you'll have a supposition of your past days, and you will think that that's what's being said. And I would encourage you to pay heed to me, and that you learn how to discern everything through the pages of the Torah. If something is being said makes you feel good because that's what your traditions have been, that doesn't mean that it is correct. It usually means that you misunderstand. And so I wouldn't desire for anyone to go to Sheol because they didn't understand. So we're going to partake today of the bread and the salt in friendship together, and I hope you guys will come along with us. I wanted to share a little thing in the bracha, in the blessing that we do for the bread. We use a term, and it is Melech HaOlam, and that is defined as you being the king of the universe. Hebraically, I think that's how we justified it, but that word olam in Hebrew actually has the concept of eternity. So now listen to the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech, King of eternity. Folks, everything that has been, he's seen every bit of it. He has been since there was, and he has been since there wasn't, and he will be when there isn't. There is no end of days to our Elohim, Yehovah. So I just felt like that was a really beautiful little thing for us. It kind of adds one of those things I'll meditate on. Wow, Elohim's not just the king. He's not just the king of kings, although he is those things. He is Melech HaOlam. He is the king of forever. Wow, that's beautiful. So we're going to take our bread as we do. We're going to lift them together because that's a good thing to do. And we're going to speak the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, King of eternity, who gives forth the bread of the earth. Let us partake in friendship together. I don't know about you, but my inward man knows that there's something infinitely getting more and more and more and more and more right, almost weekly. I believe the supernatural healing of Elohim for those who choose to follow him. Many of us have been broken for a long time, looking for the salve, but there was no ointment. That question was asked once before, where is the ointment? Why haven't you salved your eyes? Elohim was asking that question. Being very kind to us, dear friend. I would encourage you, if you're not, whatever bread you're using is wonderful because you're partaking of it. But I would encourage you to consider thinking about your health. And maybe we should begin to be a little more food and ground conscious as time and things go on. If you guys did a little bit of research, you would find out that the oils that most people are consuming will go in your body, and some of them never leave your body. You're poisoned for the rest of your life by what they're calling food. But then they call pork food, right? So just because they use a term that in biblical context is good. If we eat food, we're good. But everything outside of the commandments Elohim gave us is not food in the first place. And we call it food and he doesn't. I want to get in agreement with him. Well, we're going to carry on with the homilies. I have to tell you, these things are just blowing me away. There's things that you might struggle with. You go, hey, look at what he's talking about, this Jesus. There's as much I would like you to see, because understand this document had been attained by the Romans. And so I will tell you, just like the New Testament and just like the Old Testament, the homilies have been overwritten by some Catholic people. Some heretic fighters is what they used to call them. Everything was a heretic that didn't agree with them. So Yeshua was a heretic. Yeah. Although they hang him on a stake with his mama, the Queen of Heaven. So, chapter 2 of the Homilies of Clementine. Let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you for all your wonderful goodness. Thank you for the opportunity that we even have this. Who knows how long the internet and how long freedom will even exist in this country, that we might, without it being a lying robot AI propaganda for socialism. I don't know how long that'll be. Maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years. But I suspect sooner than we think. And so I bless you today that I have an opportunity to voice for you the things that you've said, the understandings that the words agree of the prophet with the true Torah, and that, yes, we live in a world that is massively corrupt. And so I thank you that you will save us if we will put ourselves in rightness in front of you. You will save us. You are the Savior of the world, and there is no other to replace you. I bless you today for it. Amen. Amen. All right. Homilies. Chapter 2. I might have to set my phone where it quits going off so much. All right. Peter's attendance. Therefore, the next day, this just picks up just exactly as if we finished reading 5 minutes ago, and we pick right up and go on. Therefore, the next day, I, Clement, awaking from sleep before dawn, and learning that Peter was astir, and was conversing with his attendants concerning the worship of God. There were 16 of them, and I have thought good to set forth their names, as I subsequently learned them, that you may also know who they are. The first of them was Zacchaeus, who was once a publican, and Stephanus his brother, and Joseph and his foster brother Machias, and also Thomas and Eleazar the twins, and also Aeneas and Lazarus the priest, besides also Eliseus and Benjamin the son of Sapphras, as also Rubulus and Zacharias the builders, and Ananias and Hagius the Jaminians, and Nicetus and Aquila the friends. Accordingly I went in and I saluted him, and at request sat down. And he, breaking off the discourse in which he was engaged, assured me by way of apology why he had not awakened me that I might hear his discourses, assigning as the reason the discomfort of my voyage. As he wished this to be dispelled, he had suffered me to sleep. For, said he, whenever the soul is distracted concerning some bodily want, it does not properly approach the instructions, the Torah, that are presented to it. So when you're tired or you're under a lot of stress, you can't focus. You can't rightfully even apply the word of Elohim. On this account, I'm not willing to converse either with those who are greatly grieving through some calamity, or are immoderately angry, or are turned to the frenzy of love, or are suffering under bodily exhaustion, or are distressed with the cares of life, or are harassed with any other sufferings, whose soul, as I said, being downcast and sympathizing with the suffering body, occupies also its own intelligence therewith. So in other words, you ain't here anyway, and I won't teach you. And let it not be said, is it not then proper to present comforts and admonitions to those who are in any bad case? To this I answered that if indeed anyone is able, let him present them. If you're capable of making someone's life better, do it. But if not, then let him bide his time. For I know that all things have their proper season. Wherefore it is proper to ply men with words which strengthen the soul in anticipation of evil. And some of you don't understand my ministry. My ministry is not a Christian ministry to make you feel good. But I promise you, the words that I speak to you put the truth in front of you. And if you will adhere, and if you will hear and hearken, they will definitely save your soul. So, with words which strengthen the soul in anticipation of evil. Now, that's not what Christianity does. Christianity is all about telling you how you can have salvation without doing anything. Sometimes the hard things are the things we need to hear. Sometimes the prophetic unction of the things that are coming that warn us of the evil. Many of you didn't know on your own that there were spirit forces, and don't be surprised by all of this. Why our society has gotten flipped on its ear. It's a spiritual thing. It's supernatural. It's bigger than we are. You're not going to stop it. You just have to have knowledge to know how to navigate the waters, so to speak. So that if at any time any evil comes upon them, the mind, being forewarned with the right argument, may be able to bear up under that which befalls it. So don't be surprised you've been warned. For then the mind knows in the crisis of the struggle to have recourse to him who succored it by good counsel. However, I have learned, O Clement, how that in Alexandria Barnabas perfectly expounded to you the word respecting prophecy. Was it not so? And I answered, yes, and exceeding well. Then Peter, therefore, it is not necessary now to occupy with the Torah which you know, the time which may serve us for other instructions which you do not know. You notice that most of the things I teach you haven't ever heard before. Then said I, You have rightly said, O Peter. But vouchsafe this to me, who purpose always to attend unto you, continuously to expound to me a delighted hearer the doctrine of the prophet. For apart from him, as I learned from Barnabas, it is impossible to learn the truth. And if you separate the teachings of the prophets, you find out very quickly he is not at all teaching saved by my blood. And Peter, being greatly pleased with this, answered, already had the rectifying, the rightening, the righteousness process taken its end as regards you. Knowing as you do the greatness of the infallible prophecy, without which it is impossible for anyone to receive that which is supremely profitable. I'll sum it up in a nutshell. Without looking at everything in the world around you through the eyes of the Torah, you can never know the truth. For of many and divers blessings which are in the things which are, or which may be, the most blessed of all, whether it be eternal life, or perpetual health, or a perfect understanding, or light, or joy, or immortality, or whatever else there is that can be supremely good in the nature of things, cannot be possessed without first knowing things as they are. Can I tell you, dear one, I'm here to try to help a few brothers and sisters like myself see the things that are that you've never seen. And this knowledge cannot be otherwise obtained than by first becoming acquainted with the prophet of truth. It's impossible. Now the prophet of truth, as he always knows all things, things past as they were, things present as they are, things future as they shall be. Sinless, merciful, alone entrusted with the declaration of the truth. Read, and you shall find that those were deceived who thought that they had found the truth of themselves. Because the truth of the matter is none of us have the capacity to do that. They were deceived. For this is peculiar to the prophet to declare the truth, even as it is peculiar to the sun to bring the day. Wherefore, as many as have even desired to know the truth, but have not had the good fortune to learn it from him, have not found it, but have died seeking it. For how can he find the truth who seeks it from his own ignorance? And even if he find it, he does not know it, and he passes it by as if it were not. Nor yet shall he be able to obtain possession of the truth from another, who in like manner promises to him knowledge from ignorance. Excepting only the knowledge of morality and the things of that sort, which can be known through reason, which affords to everyone the knowledge that he ought not to wrong another through his not wishing himself to be wronged. All therefore whoever sought the truth, trusting to themselves to be able to find it, fell into a snare. This is what both the philosophers of the Greeks and the more intelligent of the barbarians have suffered. For applying themselves to things visible, they have given decisions by conjectures on things not apparent. things that aren't seen, thinking that that was truth, which at time presented itself to them as such. For like persons who know the truth, they still seeking the truth reject some of the suppositions that are presented to them, and they lay hold of others as if they knew, while they do not know, what things are true and what are false. And they dogmatize concerning truth, even those who are seeking after truth, not knowing that he that seeks truth cannot learn it from his wandering. For not even, as I said, can he recognize her when she stands by him, since he is unacquainted with her. And it is by no means that which is true, but that which is pleasing, which persuades everyone who seeks to learn from himself. Wow. All the ones who seek to learn from themselves will always find something that is pleasing to them. He's already told you that things that are to protect you in times of evil are the things that are truth. We really don't know who the prophet is. And it is by since therefore one thing is pleasing to one and another to another. Ever been in church and had those arguments? But the truth is that which is approved by the prophet, not that which is pleasant to each individual. So for all of those who like to say that that's not what it means to me, nobody cares. You don't know the truth in the first place. For that which is one would be many, if the pleasing were the true, which is impossible. Dig it? It's impossible for a message that tells you that everything is okay to be the truth. It is impossible. Christianity is a lie. Wherefore also the Grecian philosophers, rather than philosophers, going about matters by conjectures, have dogmatized much and diversely, thinking that the apt sequence of hypothesis is truth, not knowing that when they have assigned to themselves false beginnings, their conclusion has corresponded with the beginning. Whence a man ought to pass by all else and commit himself to the profit of the truth alone. And we are all able to judge of him, whether he is a prophet, even although we be wholly unlearned. And novices and sophisms, and unskilled in geometry, and uninitiated in music, none of those things are going to help you, friend. For God, as caring for all, has made the discovery concerning himself easier to all, in order that neither the barbarians might be powerless, nor the Greeks unable to find him. Therefore, the discovery concerning him is easy, and thus it is. Now, I would like to draw a very, very distinct point that you will see as we go on through here. Everything that Peter says is separated, and there is none of it that in any way is to replace Elohim. A prophet is one that is sent to speak the word of Yehovah. They never come and replace Yehovah. Neither did Yeshua. Therefore, the discovery of God is easy because we have these truths. Keep the Torah. Love the Torah. And thus it is, if he is a prophet and is able to know how the world was made and the things that are in it and the things that shall be to the end, if he has foretold us anything and we have ascertained that it has been perfectly accomplished, we easily believe that the things shall be which he says are to be, from the things which have been already. We believe him, I say, as not only knowing, but as a foreknowing. To whom then, however limited an understanding he may have, does it not appear that it behooves us, with respect to the things that are pleasing to God, to believe beyond all others him who beyond all men knows, even though he has not learned? Yah is constantly using people who have no education. Wherefore, if anyone should be unwilling to concede the power of knowing the truth to such an one, certainly commonplace. I mean, to him who has foreknowledge through the divinity of spirit that is in him, conceding the power of knowing to anyone else, is he not void of understanding and conceding to him who is no prophet that power of knowing which he would not concede to the prophet? Wherefore, before all things, we must test the prophet with all judgment by means of the prophetic promise. And having ascertained him to be the prophet, we must undoubtedly follow the other words of his teaching. And having confidence concerning things hoped for, we must conduct ourselves according to the first judgment, knowing that he who tells us these things has not a nature to lie. Wherefore, if any of the things that are afterwards spoken by him do not appear to us to be well spoken, we must know that it is not that it has been spoken amiss, but that it is that we have not conceived it right. You know what that also does? That stops all the arguing. People then become humble and they ask questions instead of questioning. I've been preaching about that for 30 years. Wherefore, if any of the things that are afterwards spoken by him do not appear to us to be well spoken, we must know that it is not it is our conception of it is not right. For ignorance does not rightly judge knowledge, and so neither is knowledge competent truly to judge foreknowledge. But foreknowledge affords knowledge to the ignorant. Hence, O beloved Clements, if you would know the things pertaining to God, you have to learn them from him alone. If you would know the things of God, you have to learn them from him alone. You see the switch over? Not one of these things is glorifying Yeshua above any other human, because they didn't believe he was anything other than a human. He was a prophet. He told people the truth, what Elohim told him. There have been many prophets on the face of this earth, and today I tell you of a truth, there are still prophets on this earth, speaking the word of Yehovah. Hence, O Clement, if you would know the things pertaining to God, you have to learn them from him alone, because he alone knows the truth. For if anyone knows anything, he has received it from him or from his disciples. And this is his doctrine and true proclamation, that there is one God, whose work the world is, who being altogether righteous, shall certainly at some time render to everyone according to their deeds. Did you hear the message of the prophet? There is one God, and he alone made the earth. No false corruption, no other God named Jesus. For there is every necessity that he that says that God is by his nature righteous should believe also that the souls of men are immortal. For where would be his justice when some, having lived piously, have been evil treated? And I told you about the whole word concept pious. We could replace that word with our study, which is righteous. Those being righteous who have suffered on this earth. Listen, this is an amazing parallelisms we're going into, folks, that open what the world is really all about. So, for there is every necessity that he that says that God is by his nature righteous should believe also that the souls of men are immortal. For where would be his justice when some, having lived righteously, have been evil treated and sometimes violently killed or cut off, while others who have been wholly impious and have been unrighteous, I think, Dave, those who are wholly unrighteous and have indulged in luxurious living have died the common death of men, since therefore without all contradiction, God who is just, good, is also just. He shall not otherwise be known to be just unless the soul after its separation from the body be immortal, so that the wicked man being in hell, as having here received his good things, may there be punished for his sin. This is a beautiful parallel. And the good man who had been punished here for his sin. So why do the righteous suffer? It is our punishment for our sins while we live on this earth. Wow. And the good man who has been punished here for his sins may then, as in the bosom of the righteous, be constituted in an heir of good things. Since therefore God is righteous, it is fully evident to us that there is a judgment and that souls are immortal. But if anyone, according to the opinion of this Simon the Samaritan, and I will just put this sidestep in there, most scholars believe Simon the Samaritan is actually a metaphor for the Apostle Paul, who was, as in the first one, Peter's enemy. Will not admit that God is just, to whom then can anyone ascribe justice? Or the possibility of it? For if the root of all have it not, there is every necessity to think that it must be impossible to find it in human nature, which is, as it were, the fruit. And if it so be found in man, how much more in Elohim? But if righteousness can be found nowhere, neither in God nor in man, then neither can unrighteousness. But there is such a thing as righteousness, for unrighteousness takes its name from the existence of righteousness. For it is called unrighteousness when righteousness is compared to it. And it is found to be opposite of it. Hence, therefore, God teaching men with respect to the truth of existing things, being himself one, has distinguished all principles into pairs and opposites, himself being one and sole God from the beginning, having made heaven and earth, day and night, light and fire, sun and moon, life and death. But man alone amongst these he made self-controlling, having a fitness to be either righteous or unrighteous. To him also he hath varied the figures of combinations, placing before him small things first, and great ones afterwards, such as the world, and then eternity. That's a perpetual principle. But the world that now is temporary. That which shall be is eternal. See, the correlation is always working there. There's so many of these that are just, it's like, wow, I got a whole new picture of the world after I was done reading this. But the world that now is temporary. That which shall be is eternal. First is ignorance, and then knowledge. So also has he arranged the leaders of prophecy. For since the present world is female, as a mother bringing forth the souls of her children, I used to listen to Christian preachers talk about them dumb savage Indians who worshiped Mother Earth, and here I have the one who supposedly stood in the council of the three was the friend of Yeshua the prophet, telling me that the earth is the mother. I've been on this journey. The Indians knew more spirituality than any Christians I know. And they knew it instinctively. So first is ignorance, then knowledge. So also has he arranged the leaders of prophecy. For since the present world is female, as a mother bringing forth the souls of her children, but the world to come is male, as a father receiving his children from the mother. Wow. Therefore, in this world there come a succession of prophets as being sons of the world to come, and having knowledge of men. And yea, knowledge, but not only knowledge, but foreknowledge also. And if righteous men had understood this mystery, they would never have gone astray, but even now they should have known that Simon, who now enthralls all men, is a fellow worker of error and deceit. Now, the doctrine of the prophetic rule is as follows. As in the beginning, God, who is one, like a right hand and a left, made the heavens first and then the earth. So the two go together. Everything works in harmony. So also, he constituted all of the combinations in order. But upon men, he no more does this, but varies all the combinations. For whereas from him the greater things come first, the inferior second, we find the opposite in men. The first is worse, and the second is superior. Therefore, from Adam, who was made after the image of God, there sprang first the unrighteous Cain, and then the righteous Abel. Again, from who amongst you it is called Deucalon, two forms of spirits were sent forth, the impure, namely, and the pure. First the black raven, and then the white dove. You see that in Noah. That was a picture for us. That was a metaphor for us. If we had known these things, we would have been able to look at that and not seen it as two birds. We would have seen them as telling us the first was inferior to the one that is coming. The first one did not find land. The second one found land. It was superior. From Abraham also, the patriarch of our nation, two first sprang. Ishmael first, then Yitzhak, who was blessed of God. And from Isaac himself in like manner, there again were two, Esau the profane and Yaakov the righteous. So first in birth, as at the first birth in the world, was the high priest Aharon, and then was the Torah giver Moshe. In like manner, the combination with respect to Elias, which behooved to have come, has been willingly put off to another time, having determined to enjoy it conveniently hereafter. Wherefore also he who was among those born of women came first, then he who was among the sons of men came second. It were possible, following this order, to perceive to what series Simon's belongs, who came before me to the Gentiles, and to which I belong, who have come after him, and have come in upon him as light upon darkness, as knowledge upon ignorance, as healing upon disease. And thus, as the true prophet has told us, a false prophet must first come from some deceiver. And then in like manner, after the removal of the holy place, the true gospel must be secretly sent abroad for the rectification of the heresies that shall be. You mean you're never going to find what I'm teaching to you mainstream? No. You will either desire the truth so much more than the lie, or you will accept the lie. And thus, as the true prophet has told us, a false prophet must first come from some deceiver. And then in like manner, after the removal of the holy place, the true gospel must be secretly sent abroad for the rectification of the heresies that shall be, shining the light on what's not true. After this also, towards the end, Antichrist must first come. And then our Jesus must be revealed to be indeed the Christ, or the anointed one, our Yeshua, what is what this said. I told you guys this was overwritten by the Catholic Church. It would not surprising that they would use the term Jesus. Just replace that in this context with Yeshua. It's very all right. You can put the anointed one. He had an anointing. There is an anointing, an unction that we are told that we can also possess. The standing one, the anointed one. And after this, the eternal light having sprung up, all the things of darkness must disappear. Since then, as I said, some men do not know the rule of combination. Thence they do not know what is my precursor, Simon. For if he were known, he would not be believed. But now, not being known, he is improperly believed. And though his deeds are those of a hater, he is loved. And though an enemy, he is received as a friend. And though he be death, he is desired as a savior. And though fire, he is esteemed as light. And though a deceiver, he is believed as a speaker of the truth. Then I, Clement, when I heard this said, who then, I pray you, is this who is such a deceiver? I should like to be informed. Then said Peter, if you wish to learn, it is in your power to know it from those from whom I also got accurate information on all of the points respecting him. There is amongst us one Justa, a Syro-Phoenician, by race a Canaanite, whose daughter was oppressed with a grievous disease, and she came to our Lord, crying out and entreating him that he would heal her daughter. But he, being asked also by us, said, it is not lawful to heal the Gentiles. This is going to shock some of you folks. Bad. All right. He being also asked by us said, it is not lawful to heal the Gentiles who are like to dogs on account of their using various meats and practices. What is that? Torah. While the table in the kingdom has been given to the sons of Israel. I'm going to show you something that's so pretty it ain't even funny, friends. If you walk today, if your brain ain't mush, shame on you. But I'm telling you that the freeing truth that Elohim is exposing is absolutely phenomenal. But she, hearing this and begging to partake like a dog of the crumbs that fall from this table, having changed what she was. I'm going to say this again. Having changed what she was. What are the two statements that have been made here? Gentile versus child of Israel. She was a Gentile. To receive healing, she had to, by virtue, change what she was. Now, I'm sorrowful that that doesn't fit with Christian New Testament doctrine, but I've been saying that for a long time. But she, hearing this and begging to partake, like a dog of the crumbs that fall from this table, having changed what she was, by living like the sons of the kingdom. Wow. She obtained healing for her daughter as she asked, for she being a Gentile and remaining in the same course of life, he would not have healed her had she remained a Gentile on account of it not being torahful to heal her as a Gentile.
Out of covenant, right?
Yes. Gentile, Dave responded, and I've shared this, and it's good that I do here. Gentile being those who are out of covenant with Elohim. You become part of Israel, which is what was told to us in Shemot. When you do his commandments, keep his right rulings, you will in no wise be a second-class citizen. He just painted that metaphor. You would have never gotten that out of your Christian New Testament. You only got that Jesus called her a dog, and then because of her faith, he healed her. You had no knowledge that Jesus would not have healed her had she not made that change. Wow. He would not have healed her had she remained a Gentile on account of it not being lawful to heal her as a person out of covenant. Can I tell you, you can curse yourself and pray for all the wicked people that you want to that are Gentiles, and it will come to no avail. Do you know why in Christian churches we prayed millions of prayers for millions of Gentiles and never saw it work? There's your answer, friend. She therefore, having taken up a manner of life according to the Torah, was, with the daughter who had been healed, driven out from her home by her husband. So now he's painting the whole picture for us. She goes, she makes a commitment, she accepts the truth of the word, and she goes home, and her husband wants a pig sandwich, and she says, I will not feed you a pig sandwich anymore. And he says, get out of here, wicked woman. She paid a price. It wasn't free. It cost her everything. Whose sentiments were opposed to ours. But she, being faithful to her engagements and being in affluent circumstances, remained a widow herself, but gave her daughter in marriage to a certain man who was attached to the true faith and who was Ibanim, or who was poor. And abstaining from marriage for the sake of her daughter, she bought 2 boys and educated them and had them in place of sons. And they, being educated from their boyhood with Simon Magus, have learned all things concerning him. For such were their friendships that they were associated with him in all things which he wished to unite with them. These men, having fallen in with Zacchaeus, who sojourned here, and having received the word of truth from him, and having repented of their former innovations. So what did they have to do? They first encountered truth, and then came acceptance of truth. So you first have to encounter it, and then the second is the better, which is accepting it. Many people have not accepted the truth I've shared over 30 years. These men, having fallen in with Zacchaeus, I don't know if y'all remember, Zacchaeus was the publican, was the little man that climbed up in the tree that we read about, but we don't find about him being this, do we? You're going to actually be quite surprised about Zacchaeus. He was actually put in line to be the follower of Peter. I guess believing Yah over everything has its value. So these men, having fallen in with Zacchaeus, who sojourned here, and having received the word of truth from him, and having repented of their former innovations, see, it's all about change, friend. You can't stay like you are. Anybody who says those words, and all of you that said those words in your Christian church, shame on you and shame on me. You can't stay like you are and come to Elohim. You might can go to Jesus that way, but you can't come to Elohim that way. These men, having fallen in with Zacchaeus, who sojourned here, and have received the word of truth from him, and have repented of their former innovations, and immediately denounced Simon as being privy. So when you came to the truth, you were supposed to denounce every sin that exists. Do you know that means you might have to put your grandchildren out of your life because of their open, blatant sin? Y'all keep thinking I'm a bad guy because I talk about separation. It's a thing about either survival in the eternal or not surviving in the eternal, folks. If your family is more important than the truth, then go to your family, because that will be your reward, and your punishment for your sin is coming. Wow. Boy, sometimes this stuff just takes my breath away. Does it surprise you that they don't want to teach this on your Sun Worship Church? They don't want you to know nothing about this. Oh my gosh. Just destroys it. This is the nuclear bomb. So, having received the word of truth from him, Zacchaeus, and having repented, which was what? They had to stop it and turn. Teshuvah. Of their former innovations, and immediately they denounced Simon as being privy with him in all things. As soon as I came to sojourn here, they came to me with their foster mother, being presented to me by him, Zacchaeus, and ever since they continue with me, enjoying instructions in truth. When Peter had said this, he sent for them and charged them that they should accurately relate to me all things concerning Simon, and they, having called God to witness that in nothing they would falsify, proceeded with the relation. First Aquila began to speak in this wise. You've heard of Aquila, Priscilla and Aquila in the scriptures? In the New Testament. First Aquila began to speak in this wise. Listen, O dearest brother, that you may know accurately everything about this man, whose he is, and what and whence and what the things are which he does, and how and why he does them. This Simon is the son of Antonius and Rahel, a Samaritan by race, of the village of Githia, which is 6 shoni distance from the city. He, having disciplined himself greatly in Alexandria, and being very powerful in magic, and being ambitious, wishes to be accounted a certain supreme power greater than the God who created the world. And sometimes imitating that he is Christ, or the anointed one, he styles himself the standing one. And this epithet he employs as intimating that he shall always stand, and has not having any cause of corruption, so that his body shall not fall. And he neither says that the God who created the world is the supreme, nor does he believe that the dead will be raised. He rejects Jerusalem, substitute Mount Gerizim for it, and just so you know, a Samaritan is one of the 10 tribes of Israel. They still have their Passover on Mount Gerizim. He was one of the tribes of Israel, folks. They still cook their sheep. We watched a whole hour-and-a-half thing about them cooking their sheep on Passover on Mount Gerizim, still to this day. So he rejects Jerusalem, substitutes Mount Gerizim for it, and instead of our Christ, he proclaims himself. The things of the Torah he explains by his own presumption. He says indeed that there is to be a judgment, but he does not expect it. For if he were persuaded that he shall be judged by God, he would not dare be unrighteous towards Elohim himself. When some, not knowing that, use religion as a cloak, he spoils the things of the truth, and faithfully believing the hope and the judgment which is in some way, he says, are to be, are ruined. But that he came to deal with the doctrines of religions happened on this wise. There was one John, a day Baptist. Can I tell you? That means a daily bather. So was Yaakov, the brother of Yeshua. So can I tell you what we can also see historically as we go through these things? Whatever James is, and whatever Peter is, and whatever John, the immerser is, guess what? That's what Yeshua is. They walked by the water. They wore only white jabbalas. Only. White linen jabbalas. Yaakov never had another piece of clothing on his body. James the righteous never had another piece of clothing on his body. He never cut his hair. He never drank alcohol. But that he came to deal with the doctrines of the religion happened on this wise. There was one John, a day Baptist, who was also, according to the method of combination, the forerunner of our Lord Jesus, or of Yeshua HaMashiach, I would say. And as the Lord had 12 apostles bearing the number of the 12 months of the sun, so also he, Yehuchanan, had 30 chief men. Okay? Just so you know, that whole baptism thing. He was a follower of John, his cousin. They weren't strangers. They weren't unknown to each other. In fact, to be honest with you, they knew each other spiritually before they were either one of them ever born. John also knew Yaakov. He also knew Jude. He also knew Simeon, all brothers of Yeshua. He knew them all. He was their leader, friends. This John. The government wasn't scared that Jesus would cause an insurrection. They were scared to death that John would tell the people to rebel against Rome, and they would listen. He had that much of an influence. While John was alive, this Yeshua was a soldier in his army. But that he came to deal with the doctrines of religion happened on this wise. There was one John, a daily bather, who was also, according to the method of combination, the forerunner of Yeshua HaMashiach. And as Yeshua had 12 apostles bearing the number of the 12 months of the sun, so also he, Yehuchanan, had 30 chief men, fulfilling the monthly reckoning of the moon. In which number was a certain woman called Helena, that not even this might be without a dispensational significance. So nothing is happening in our world, even though we are blind, deaf, and dumb and cannot see it, folks. Nothing is happening incidentally. This has really been a massive revelation over the last several months. Way too oftentimes we live our lives trying to control things that we will never have any control over. What if we really got to live our lives, and when something doesn't happen today, we didn't get to play music today, I said, thank you, Father, that today it was not your will that we should play music. Today you wanted the word to be read and that to be focused on. How thankful that was his will for today. Because had it not been his will, guess what? We would have played music. That not even this might be without a dispensational significance. What is that statement supposed to mean to us? It's supposed to tell us that everything has a time and a season, and it's ordained by Elohim. For a woman being half a man made up the imperfect number of the triacontad. Okay? Because it's a half a day number for the cycle of the moon. And also in the complete course of the month. And also in the case of the moon, whose revolution does not make the complete course of the month. But of these 30, the first and the most esteemed by John was Simon. Now you never knew that, did you? Simon Magus, this one who was supposed to be the magician, who believed there's parts written in and out that are Paul, was the greatest disciple that John the Baptist had. Wow. How did that work? Let's find out. But of these 30, the first and most esteemed by John was Simon. And the reason of his not being chief after the death of John was as follows. He being absent in Egypt from the practice of magic, and John being killed, Dositheus, desiring the leadership, falsely gave out that Simon was dead, and succeeded to the seat. But Simon, returning not long after, and strenuously holding by the place as his own, where he met with Dositheus, did not demand the place, knowing that a man who has attained power beyond his expectations cannot be removed from it. So, in other words, if Dositheus got put in the head, he got put in the head because that was Yah's will, and he would be fighting Yah if he tried to get him removed. So what did he do? He also had to stand in that thing of it is Yah's will for right now, and I must stand and wait on Elohim. Okay? Wherefore, with pretended friendship, he gives himself for a while to the second place under Dositheus. How about us? Doesn't that happen? Do you know there's a reason why we're told that patient needs to have its perfect work? Because we're just about like Simon most of the time. We be patient for a little while, and then 2 days later, you going to do what you going to do, and the whole patience thing went out the window because you got tired of waiting. Things weren't like you wanted them to be, and you would not humble yourself waiting on Elohim to establish. Why? Because Elohim probably would have never established Simon. Those two go together also, prideful versus willful. People who bow, humble, humility is what I was trying to say. Wherefore, with pretended friendship, he gives himself for a while to the second place under Dositheus. But taking his place after a few days amongst the 30 fellow disciples, he begins to malign Dositheus as not delivering the instructions of the Torah correctly. And this he said that he did, not through unwillingness to deliver them correctly, but through ignorance. So he throws out a statement against Dositheus, and Dositheus, because he's a humble person, and you can tell he is by his behavior, he goes, you know, you're right. If I did that, then I'm wrong, and I didn't do it because I was trying to deceive anybody. And, of course, evil people always know how to use that kind of stuff. Our government does it constantly. The Democrats do it constantly. And on one occasion, Dositheus, perceiving that this artful accusation of Simon was dissipating the opinion of him with respect to many, so that they did not think he was the standing one, came in a rage to the usual place of meeting, and finding Simon, struck him with a staff. But it seemed to pass through the body of Simon as if it had been smoke. Thereupon Dositheus, being confounded, said to him, if you are the standing one, I also will worship you. Does anybody see that, what it is? What is it? Pride. What is it? I want people to worship me. Then Simon said that he was. I am the one. And Dositheus, knowing that he himself was not the standing one, fell down and worshipped. And associating himself with the 29 chiefs, he raised Simon to his own place of repute. And thus, not many days after, Dositheus himself, while he, Simon, stood, fell down and died. Probably of a broken heart. But Simon is going about in company with Helena, and even till now, as you see, is stirring up the people. He says that he has brought down this Helena from the highest heavens to the world, being queen as the all-bearing being and wisdom, for whose sake, says he, the Greeks and the barbarians fought, having before their eyes but an image of truth. For she who really is the truth was then with the chiefest gods. So he used this Helena to get into the minds, and the reference there has to do with the Queen of Heaven. He says, look what I brought down. I brought the Queen of Heaven down. Moreover, by cunningly explaining certain things of this sort, made up from Grecian myths, he deceives many, especially as he performs many signal marvels, so that if we did not know that he does these things by magic, we ourselves should have also been deceived. You remember, be careful that even the very elect could be deceived. But whereas we were fellow laborers at the first, so long as he did such things without doing wrong to the interest of religion, you can understand they interpreted the word religion, but it was actually true to the truth or the true following. Now that he has madly begun to attempt to deceive those who are religious or following the way, we have withdrawn from him. For he even began to commit murder, as him himself disclosed to us as a friend to friends, that having separated the soul of a child from its own body by horrid incantations as his assistant for the exhibition of anything that he pleased, And having drawn the likeness of the boy, he has it set up in the inner room where he sleeps, saying that he once formed the boy out of air. By divine arts, and having painted his likeness, he gave him back again to the air. And he explains that he did the deed thus. He said that the first soul of man, being turned into the nature of heat, drew to itself and sucked in the surrounding air after the fashion of a gourd. And then he was changed into water when it was within the form of the Spirit. And he said that he changed into the nature of blood the air that was in it, which could not be poured out on account of the consistency of the Spirit, and that he made the blood solidified into flesh. Then, the flesh being thus consolidated, that he exhibited a man not made from earth, but a man made from air. So he is actually putting himself up there, perceiving himself as if he were God. And he's convincing the early believers that he is God. Are any of your minds catching on that this is a lot of these pieces are prophecies you read in the New Testament? It's like a guy I heard the other day. He's supposed to be some smart guy with a scholarly degree, and he said, "Well, you know that when you see in Daniel it says when you see the man of sin standing in the temple declaring that he is God, and not one Christian that I know of knows that happened in the very time in which that Titus went into the temple and declared himself to be God, put his statue in the temple court. He fulfilled that whole prophecy 2,000 years ago, and we're still looking at it to happen out of the book of Revelation. Historically, it's very easy to prove that. Let's find out as close as we can anyways what really went on there that the Bible chooses not to tell us. He said that the first soul of man, being turned into the nature of heat, drew to itself and sucked in the surrounding air after the fashion of a gourd. And then he that changed it into water when it was within the form of the Spirit. And he said that he changed into the nature of blood the air that was in it, which could not be poured out on account of the consistency of the Spirit, and that he made the blood solidified into flesh. Then the flesh being thus consolidated, that he exhibited a man not made from earth, but from air. And thus having persuaded himself that he was able to make a new sort of man, he said that he reversed the changes and again restored him to the air. And when he told this to others, he was believed. But by us, who were present at his ceremonies, he was religiously disbelieved. Wherefore we denounced his impieties, his unrighteousness, and we withdrew from him. Did you see the reaction? We denounced his unrighteousness and we separated ourselves. You cannot love the world and Elohim, friends. Wow. When Aquila had thus spoken, his brother Nicetas said, "It is necessary, O Clement, our brother, for me to mention what has been left out by Aquila. For in the first place, God is witness that we assisted him in no unrighteous work, but that we looked on while he worked. And as long as he did harmless things and exhibited them, we were also pleased." Like going to a magic show. But when in order to deceive the godly, he said that he did by means of Godhead the things that were done by magic, we no longer endured him. Though he made us many promises, especially that our statues should be thought worthy of a place in the temple, and that we should be thought to be gods, and should be worshipped by the multitude, and should be honored by kings, and should be thought worthy of public honors and enriched with boundless wealth. These things and things reckoned greater than these he promised us on condition only that we should associate with him and keep silence to the wickedness of his undertaking, so that the scheme of his deceit might succeed. But still would not consent, but even counseled him to desist from such madness, saying to him, We, O Simon, remember our friendship towards you from our childhood, and out of affection for you, give you good counsel. Desist from this attempt. You cannot be a god. Fear him who really is God. Know that you are a man and that the time of your life is short, and though you should get great riches or even become a king, few things accrue to the short time of your life for enjoyment, and things wickedly gotten soon flee away, and procure everlasting punishment for the adventurer. Wherefore we counsel you to fear God, by whom the soul of every one must be judged for the deeds that they have done here. When he heard this, he laughed. And when we asked him why he laughed at us for giving him good counsel, he answered, I laugh at your foolish supposition, because you believe that the soul of man is immortal. Then I said, We do not wonder, O Simon, at your attempt to deceive us, but we are confounded at the way to which you deceive even yourself. Maybe some of you felt that way. Maybe some of you have talked to people, and it's not so much that you're struggling with what they think about you, but it's what they're not thinking about themselves. Tell me, O Simon, even if no one else has been fully convinced that the soul is immortal, at all events you and we ought to be so, you as having separated one from a human body and conversed with it and laid your commands upon it, and we as having been present and heard your commands and clearly witnessed the performance of what was ordered. So get it. Supernatural spiritual things, folks, are real. People walking around, mediums and stuff that are talking to spirits are not fake. Then said Simon, I know what you mean, but you know nothing of the matters concerning which you reason. Then said Nicetas, if you know, speak, but if you do not know, do not suppose that we can be deceived by your saying that you know, and that we do not. For we are not so childish that you can sow in us a shrewd suspicion that we should think that you know some unutterable things, and so that you should take and hold us in subjection, by holding us in restraint through means of desire. Oh, I got the truth you don't have. Then Simon said, I am aware that you know that I separated a soul from a human body, but I know that you are ignorant that it is not the soul of the dead person that ministers to me. Anybody here? Are you ready? For it does not exist, but a certain demon works pretending to be the soul. Are you wondering why all of the hauntings and stuff? Then said Nicetas, many things we have heard in our lifetime, but aught more senseless than this speech we do not expect ever to hear. For if a demon pretends to be the soul of a dead person, what is the use then of a soul? At all. That it should be separated from the body. Were not we ourselves present and heard you conjuring the soul from the body? And how comes it that when one is conjured, another who is not conjured obeys as if it were frightened? And you yourself, when at any time we have asked you why the conferences sometimes cease, did not you say that the soul, having fulfilled the time upon earth which it was to have passed in the body, goes to Hades? And you added that the souls of those who commit suicide are not easily permitted to come because, having gone home into Hades, they are guarded. Isn't it funny that the soul's going forth is more tied to Hades And here everyone's trying to tell you that all of these wicked people who lived wicked lives are going to the light. Nicetas haveth thus spoken. Aquila himself in turn said, This only should I wish to learn of you, Simon, whether it is the soul or whether it is the demon that is conjured. What is it afraid of, that it does not despise the conjuration? Then Simon said, It knows that it should suffer punishment if it were disobedient. Then said Aquila, Therefore, if the soul comes when conjured, there is also a judgment. If therefore souls are immortal, assuredly there is also a judgment. So, thank you, Simon, but you actually made my point. As you say then that those who are conjured on wicked business are punished if they disobey, how are you not afraid to compel them when those that are compelled are punished for disobedience? For it is not wonderful that you do not already suffer for your doing, seeing the judgment has not yet come, when you are to suffer the penalty of those deeds which you have compelled others to do. And when that which has been done under compulsion shall be pardoned, as having been out of respect for the oath which led to the evil action, and he hearing this was enraged, and he threatened death to us if we did not keep silent as to his doings. Aquila having thus spoken, I, Clement, inquired, What then are the prodigies that he works? And they told me that he makes statues to walk, that he rolls himself on the fire and is not burnt, and sometime he flies, and he makes loaves of stones. He becomes a serpent, so he transforms rocks into bread, if you didn't know what that was saying, loaves to stones. All of these are correlation to things that we saw. It's just the same as with Aharon. When Aharon threw down the staff, the magicians were able to throw down the staff. This is exactly the same thing as you saw in Shemot with Aaron. He becomes two-faced. He changes himself into gold. He opens lock-fast gates. He melts iron. At banquet, he produces images of all manner of forms. In his house, he makes dishes to be seen as born of themselves to wait upon him, with no bearers being seen. Levitation. I wondered when I heard them speak thus, but many bore witness that they had been present and had seen such things. These things have been thus spoken. The excellent Peter himself also proceeded to speak. You must perceive, brethren, the truth of the rule of conjunction, from which he who departs cannot be misled. He's hopefully going to give us some knowledge that helps us to not be able to be misled. I like those kind of things. For since, as we have said, we see all things in pairs and contraries, as the night is first and then the day, first ignorance and then knowledge, first disease, then healing, so the things of error come into our lives, then truth supervenes. Why did Elohim send me to Christianity to then bring me out? Because I needed to go to the one to be able to see the other, as well as you too, dear one. So every one of us are living the fulfillment of this. So then the day, and first ignorance, then knowledge, first disease, then healing. So the things of error come first into our lives, then truth supervenes as the physician upon the disease. Anybody waking up? Therefore, straightway, when our God-loved nation was about to be ransomed from the oppression of the Egyptians, first diseases were produced by the means of a rod turned into a serpent, which was given to Aaron, and then remedies were superinduced by the prayers of Moses. How many of you saw and knew that that was all part of this thing that Elohim does? It's part of his character, dear friends. It's happening probably every single day in our lives, and we don't see it. And now also, when the Gentiles are about to be ransomed from the superstition with respect to idols, wickedness which reigns over them, has by anticipation sent forth her ally like another serpent. Even this Simon whom you see, who works wonders to astonish and deceive, this is so amazing, not signs of healing to convert and save. Not signs of healing to bring compassion. He does these things to elevate himself. Wherefore it behooves you also from the miracles that are done to judge those people that do them. What is the character of the performer? Isn't it funny? What is the character of the performer? And what? That of the deed. If he do unprofitable miracles, he is the agent of wickedness. Now understand, according to the secular worldview, the miracles of the wicked are profitable to them. The miracles of the wicked are unprofitable for the purpose of Elohim's kingdom. So when we do things, when I went and prayed for that little brain dead girl that was laying in a hospital in Austin, and I prayed for her, and Elohim told me on the way home that she would be healed at midnight, and she sat up at 7 o'clock the next morning, and in 5 days' time was back in public school after having had no brainwave. That wasn't because of me, that was because of him, and it was because of that little girl. It wasn't about anybody else. It was Elohim showing himself. The girl never knew. I never got to meet the girl. But I sure did. So, wherefore it behooves you also from the miracles that are done to judge the doers. What is the character of the performer? And what that of the deed? If he do unprofitable miracles, he is the agent of wickedness. But if he do profitable things, he is a leader of goodness. Those then are useless signs which you say that Simon did. But I say that the making statues walk and rolling himself on burning coals and becoming a dragon and being changed into a goat and flying in the air and all such things, not being for the healing of man, are of a nature to deceive many. You notice Yeshua didn't do things like that. He went about doing good things to help people. But the miracles of compassionate truth are philanthropic, such as you have heard that the Lord did, and that I after him accomplished by my prayers, at which most of you have been present, some being freed from all kinds of diseases, and some from demons, and some having their hands restored, and some their feet, some recovering their eyesight, and some their hearing, and whatever else a man can do, being of a philanthropic spirit, which is part of the truth that comes from the prophet, is that we are to love people. When Peter had thus spoken towards dawn, Zacchaeus entered and saluted us and said to Peter, Simon puts off the inquiry till tomorrow, for today is his Sabbath, which occurs at intervals of 11 days. To him Peter answered, say to Simon, whenever thou wishest, and know thou that we are always in readiness to meet thee, by divine providence when thou desirest. And Zacchaeus, hearing this, went out to return the answer. But he, Peter, saw me disheartened, and asked the reason. And being told that it proceeded from no cause but the postponement of the inquiry, he said, he who has apprehended that the world is regulated by the good providence of God, this is a message for us, I've already talked about pieces of it. He who has apprehended, he who has grabbed a hold of the truth that the world is regulated by the good providence of God, O beloved Clement, is not vexed by things howsoever occurring, considering that things that take their course advantageously under the providence of the ruler. Whence, knowing that he is just and living with a good conscience, he knows how by right reason to shake off from his soul any annoyance that befalls him. Wow. Because when complete, it must come to some unknown good. So I've had people of you tell me, and I certainly know it's true for myself, but you have sometimes a problem finding that joy. We have a problem finding that joy, dear ones, because we're tied up in the issues and the struggles in life, and we haven't yet come to this. This is, and I'm sure for many of you people that might come along and hear this, dear one, this is the first that I've ever heard of this theme. We believe we have faith in Elohim, but then we show that we distrust him. I don't think that can be good, can it? Now then, let not Simon the magician postpone of the inquiry grieve you. Perhaps it has happened from the providence of God for your profit. And I love this because he turns it right back. I've said it to you a while ago. Doesn't it humble you when you think about 5,000 years ago, Elohim knew I would be sitting here today teaching this book to y'all, and you get to be blessed to hear it? It's not accidental. This is more important than anything, folks. But we must believe that it'll come to some good. We don't know what the good is, but if that's what y'all want, it'll come to some good. There'll be a reason we couldn't see. Now then, let not Simon the magician postpone of the inquiry grieve you, for perhaps it has happened from the providence of God for your profit. Wherefore, I shall not scruple to speak to you as being my special friend. Some of our people attend feignedly upon Simon as companions, as if they were persuaded by his most atheistic error, in order that they may learn his purpose and disclose it to us, so that we may be able to encounter this terrible man on favorable terms. So what's Peter telling Clement, who has come? He doesn't know. He's confused about a lot of things, and Peter says, just so you know, Clement, don't worry, there are people that are my followers that are following Simon so that they can find out what he is actually teaching. One of the places they believed that was people in the Christian church following Paul. Remember, they had to write under hidden stuff because the Romans would kill you if you were speaking against their beliefs and stuff. And now I've learned from them what arguments he is going to employ in the discussion, and knowing this, I give thanks to God on the one hand, and I congratulate you on the other, on the postponement of the discussion, for you being instructed by me before the discussion of the arguments that we are to be used by him for the destruction of the ignorant. So why are the evil people? They're doing it to destroy the ignorant. We'll be able to listen without danger of falling. So he's like, man, I'm glad I saved you. I'm glad Elohim put this day off so I get a chance to tell you that this is what's coming. Don't be fooled by it. It ain't real. It ain't true. This is who Elohim is. You are blessed because Elohim has done this great thing. For the scriptures have had joined to them many falsehoods against God on this account. And this is going to rock some of you folks. You've been hearing me tell you that I do not believe that the whole Old Testament is real. Now you're going to hear it from Peter. I had never read this until a week ago. For the scriptures have had joined to them many falsehoods against God on this account. The prophet Moses, having by the order of God believed the Torah, with the explanations to certain chosen men, some 70 in number, in order that they also might instruct such of the people as choose. After a little, the written Torah had added to it certain falsehoods contrary to the Torah of Elohim. Does anybody see that? Who made the heavens and the earth and all thing in them, the wicked one having dared to work this for some righteous purpose. And this took place in reason and judgment, that those might be convicted who should dare to listen to the things written against Elohim. And those who through love towards him should not only disbelieve the things spoken about him, but should not even endure to hear them at all. You know what that means, right? I'm not going to tell you. If you don't know, then you don't know. But it's pretty clear he's spent 2 years putting out a simple principle that I was hated by many people for. That we should not only disbelieve the things spoken against him, but should not even endure to hear them at all, even if they should happen to be true. Judging it much safer to incur danger with respect to religious faith than to live with an evil conscience on account of blasphemous words. Simon, therefore, as I learn, intends to come into public and to speak of these chapters against God that are added the scriptures. And just so you know, I want to say this, I might say it 1,000 times, there was no New Testament in this day. The scriptures are the Old Testament. No New Testament here. The scriptures for the sake of temptation, that he may seduce as many wretched ones as he can from the love of God. For we do not wish to say in public that these chapters were added to the Bible, since we should thereby perplex the unlearned multitudes and so accomplish the purpose of this wicked Simon. Wow. For they, not having yet the power of discerning, would flee from us as impious. And as if not only the blasphemous chapters were false, they would even withdraw from the word. Wherefore we are under a necessity of assenting to the false chapters and putting questions in return to him concerning them, to draw him into a strait and to give in private an explanation of the chapters that are spoken against God to the well-disposed after a trial of their faith. So if they make it through this thing and then afterwards they still want to hear what the truth is and they don't believe Simon, then he says, I'll talk to these, but all of those I'm not going to talk to. So much so for the all-inclusive church, right? Only those who are hungry for, only those who seek after righteousness will find it. Yeshua was telling us one of the most profound teachings that there is, that Elohim does not give his truth to everybody. Wow. Think about that verse now. Only those that seek find. You thought he was talking about the money you need or whatever. Ain't none of that, folks. It's the truth. Only those who seek truth will find it. And if you're seeking but not truth, you will find falsehood. Yah has it set up that way. Wherefore we are under a necessity of sending to the false chapters and putting questions in return to him concerning them, to draw him into a strait and to give in private an explanation of the chapters that are spoken against Elohim to the well-disposed after a trial of their faith. And of this there is but one way, and that a brief one. It is this: everything that is spoken or written against Elohim is false. But that we say this truly, not only for the sake of reputation, but for the sake of truth. I shall convince you when my discourse has proceeded a little further, which you, my most beloved Clement, ought to be sorry at Simon's having interposed today between this and the discussion. For today before the discussion you shall be instructed concerning the chapters added to the scriptures, and then in the discussion concerning the only one and good God, the maker of all the world, you ought not to be distracted, But in the discussion, you will even wonder how impious men, overlooking the multitudes of things that are spoken against him, gladly bring these forward, and thus the hearers, by reason of ignorance, believe the things against Elohim, become outcast from his kingdom. Can I just tell you an explanation of that statement? Because all of your hearts were not right, you were given to Christianity for destruction. Because it's not the truth. They gave you another God and you took it. You even pray in his name. But in the discussion, you will even wonder how impious men, overlooking the multitudes of things that are spoken in the scripture of Elohim, and looking at those that are spoken against him. So your heart was wrong right from the get-go. Have you ever heard that? People read the Bible to make their point, not let the Bible make their point? He answers that. And looking at those are spoken against him, gladly bring those forward. And thus the hearers, by reason of ignorance, believing the things against Elohim, become outcasts from his kingdom. Wherefore you, by advantage of the postponement, learning the mystery of the scriptures and gaining the means of not sinning against Elohim, will incomparably rejoice. You want to find joy? Folks, we got lots of reasons to find joy. I'm just telling you, to everyone that is out there, if your heart is right and you are walking with the truth and you are putting it inside of you, dear one, it's not if you are blessed, you are already blessed. Then I, Clement, hearing this, truly I rejoice, and I give thanks to Elohim, who in all things doeth well. However, he knows that I shall be able to think nothing other than that all things are for Elohim. Wherefore do not suppose that I ask questions as doubting in the words concerning God or those that are to be spoken, but rather I may learn and so be able myself to instruct another who is ingenuously willing to learn. Wherefore tell me what are the falsehoods added to the scriptures and how it comes that they are really false. Then Peter answered, even although you had not asked me, I should have gone on in order and afforded you the exposition of these matters, as I promised. Learn then how the scriptures misrepresent him in many respects, that you may know when you happen upon them, which is what I tell you guys. We should be able to learn how to read the scriptures and discern what isn't correct and what is correct, because it's not Elohim's character. It doesn't seem that something is wrong here. We don't always know exactly the answer, but we have enough discernment to know that something here ain't right. I hope you're being blessed and encouraged today, because that's the purpose, is for us to be successful. But what I'm going to tell you will be sufficient by way of example. But I do not think, my dear Clement, that anyone who possesses ever so little love to God and ingenuously will be able to take in or even to hear the things that are spoken against him. For how is it that he can have a monarchic soul, and be holy, who supposes that there are many gods and not only one? Or because really many includes two. How in many defects, since he will hope that the beginning of all things by reason of the defects of his own nature will not visit the crimes of others. Wherefore, far be it from us to believe that the Lord of all, who made the heaven and the earth and all things that are in them, shares his government with others, or that he lies. For if he lies, then who speaks truth? Or that he makes experiments as in ignorance? For who then foreknows? And if he deliberates deliberates and changes his purpose, who is perfect in understanding and permanent in design? If he envies, who is above rivalry? If he hardens hearts, who makes wise? If he makes blind and deaf, who has given sight and hearing? If he commits pilfering, who administers justice? If he mocks, who is sincere? If he is weak, who is omnipotent? If he is unjust, who is just? If he makes evil things, who will make good things? If he does evil, who will do good? But if he desires the fruitful hill, whose then are all things? If he is false, who then is true? If he dwells in a tabernacle, who is without bounds? Did anybody catch that? If he dwells in a tabernacle. Where did you find that at? Absolutely. You find that way back in the desert when Moses and them are out in the wilderness. I wonder what old pastor knows that I might not know. If he dwells in a tabernacle, who is without bounds? If he is fond of fat and sacrifices and offerings, please tell me where you would find all of these things. Could I say Leviticus? If he is fond of fat, oh, by the way, I do have a teaching for anyone who might come along, and thank you for all of those new subscribers that are coming. But I do have a really profound teaching on it comes from all of the prophets is where I grabbed it, starting with Jeremiah about the corruption of the Torah that he read. Everything in that was promulgated and was instituted by the prophet. Okay, there's more significance to this whole prophet thing than you might understand. The only truth that we can pretty much be sure of are the prophets. That's why Elohim said, I rose up early and I sent my prophets. That's why I know that there was no golden box. They're looking for a pipe dream. And even if it wasn't Elohim's. But they're not looking for the things that Elohim did tell us. Is anybody seeing a pretty scathing indictment here? Oh, I'm sorrowful. By the way, old Pastor Turner over in Missouri, he told us that a year ago, and I believed he was an idiot and didn't know what he was talking about. But if he desires the fruitful hill, whose then are all things? If he is false, who is true? If he dwells in a tabernacle, who is without bounds? If he is fond of fat and sacrifices and offerings and drink offerings, who then is without need? Who is holy and pure and perfect? If he is pleased with candles and candlesticks, who then placed the luminaries in the heavens? If he dwells in shadow and darkness and storm and smoke, who is the light that lightens the universe? If he comes with trumpets and shoutings and darts and arrows, who is the looked for tranquility of all? He's just destroying the Old Testament. If he loves war, who then wishes peace? He was mad at the fallen ones for teaching the humans war. Wow. If he makes evil things, then who makes good things? If he is without affection, who then is a lover of men? If he is not faithful to his promises, then who can be trusted? If he loves the wicked and adulterers and murderers, Who shall be a just judge? If he changes his mind, who is steadfast? If he chooses evil men, who then takes the part of the good? Wherefore, Clement, my son, beware of thinking otherwise of Elohim. That's a wonderful word of warning to us, guys. Than that he is the only God. Now I want you to understand, he's talking about Elohim here because sometimes these wordings are words that have been corrupted in Christianity and they are implanted in us. And I sometimes have to stop and go, wait a minute, this is not the reference. Okay, so he is the only God, Lord and Father, good and righteous, the Creator, long-suffering, merciful, the sustainer, the benefactor, ordaining love of men, counseling in purity, immortal, making immortal, incomparable, dwelling in the souls of the good. So, Elohim does not dwell in the souls of the wicked, no matter how much you would like to think that. That cannot be contained and yet is contained. Who has fixed the great world as a center in the space, who has spread out the heavens and solidified the earth, who has stored up the water, who has disposed the stars in the sky, who has made the fountains flow in the earth, has produced fruits, has raised up mountains, has set bounds to the sea, has ordered winds and blasts, who by the spirit of counsel has kept safely the body comprehended in a boundless sea. This is our judge to whom it behooves us to look. And to regulate our own souls, thinking in all things in his favor, speaking well of him. Persuaded that by his long suffering he brings to light the obstinacy of us all, and is alone good. He at the end of all shall sit as a just judge upon every one of those who have attempted what they ought not. Broke the natural order. Women, there's a reason why Elohim made you like you are. That's because that's how you're supposed to look. There's a reason why he made men. There's a reason why he says that we are not to cut our beards and cut our hair, because he made us to have beards and he made our hair to stop. My hair has been this length for over 6 months now. Why? Because Elohim set the bounds for a man's hair. One's is this length and another's is that length. But the bound is still set. A woman by this time could have hair all the way down to her knees. Those are all things intended. So what we call long hair in a man, it really isn't long hair in the first place. This is our judge to whom it behooves us to look and to regulate our own souls, thinking all things in his favor, speaking well of him, persuading that he, by his long suffering, he brings to light the obstinacy of us all. So if we will just continue on, if you're real and you continue on, he will help you purge what's inside of you. I cry for this every day, folks. I don't know what you people's journey with Elohim is, but I don't ask him for things like I ask him to help me with me. When Clement heard this, I said, truly, this is godliness. Truly, this is righteousness. And again, I said, I would learn, therefore, why the Bible has written anything of this sort. For I remembered that you said it was for the conviction of those who should dare to believe anything that was spoken against God. But since you permit us, we venture to ask at your command if anyone, most beloved Peter, should choose to say to us, the scriptures are true, although to you the things spoken against God seem to be false, how should we answer him? And Peter answered, you speak well in your inquiry, for it is for your safety. Therefore listen. Since there are many things that are spoken by the scripture against God, As time presses on account of the evening, ask with respect to any one matter that you please, and I will explain it, showing that it is false, not only because it is spoken against Elohim, but because it really is false. Then I answered, I wish to learn how, when the scriptures say that God is ignorant, you can show that he knows. Then Peter said, you presented us with a matter that can easily be answered. However, listen how God is ignorant of nothing, but he even foreknows. But first answer me what I ask of you. He who wrote the Bible and told how the world was made and said that God does not foreknow, was he a man or not? Then I said, he was a man. Then Peter answered, how then was it possible for him, being a man, to know assuredly how the world was made, and that God does not foreknow? Then I, already perceiving the explanation, smiled and said that he was a prophet. And Peter said, if then he was a prophet, being a man, he was ignorant of nothing, by reason of us having received foreknowledge from God. How then should he, who gave a man the gift of foreknowledge, being God himself, be ignorant? And I said, you have spoken rightly. Then Peter said, come with me one step further. It being acknowledged by us that God foreknows all things, there is every necessity that the scriptures are false, which say that he is ignorant, and those are true which say that he knows. Then said I, it must needs be so. Then Peter said, if therefore some of the scriptures are true and some false, with good reason said our master, be ye good money changers, inasmuch as the scriptures, there are some true sayings and some spurious. You would have never thought of Yeshua telling you that, would you? And to those who err by reason of the false scriptures, he fitly showed the cause of their error, saying, you do therefore err, not knowing the true things of the scriptures. New definition of what that New Testament verse means. It's infinitely larger than you ever had a dream of, isn't it? I love this Elohim. For this reason you are ignorant also of the power of Elohim. Then said I, you have spoken very excellently. Then Peter answered, assuredly with good reason, I neither believe anything against God nor against the just men recorded in the Torah. The just men. That would be the prophets. Taking for granted that they are impious imaginations. For as I am persuaded, neither was Adam a transgressor who was fashioned by the hands of God, nor was Noah a drunken, who was found righteous above all the world, nor did Abraham live with 3 wives at once, who on account of his sobriety was thought worthy of a numerous posterity, nor did Jacob associate with 4, of whom were 2 sisters, who was the father of the 12 tribes, and who intimated the coming of the presence of our master, nor was Moses a murderer, nor did he learn to judge from an idolatrous priest, he who set forth the law of God to all the world, and for his right judgment has been testified as a faithful steward. Wow. But of these and such things like things, I shall afford you an explanation in due time. But for the rest, since, as you see, the evening has come upon us, let what has been said be enough for today. And I'm sure some of you are saying, let what has been said today be enough for today. It's okay, folks. I'm just an intense person. We are so blessed, man. I'm sorrowful. I'm just jubilant inside. I'm dancing and I'm enjoying, not because of me, because, wow. I went through my whole life being lied to, and Elohim has been kind enough to me to show me the truth. I would have never found it by myself. But of these and such like things I shall afford you on the explanation in due time. But for the rest, since you see the evening has come upon us, let what has been said be enough for today. For whenever you wish, and about whatever you wish, ask boldly of us, and we will gladly explain it at once. Thus having spoken, he rose up, and then having partaken of food, we turned to sleep, for the night had come upon us. Wow. And I promise you, 3, 4, and 5 are absolutely just as huge. So, blessed is Yehovah, Baruch atah Yehovah, and Baruch atah are you, who have come with a right heart of desirous to learn the truth, not to come to try to do away with the truth or dispel the truth. Those people are a dime a dozen. They will fill churches tomorrow to dispel the truth. But for those of you who came for the truth, blessed Baruch atah are you. Wow. Now, can I be quite candid? Let this sink into you and maybe see if you don't have a spiritual revelation and a spiritual rejuvenation of what these words that I keep reading to y'all, the significance, how huge it actually is. Yehovah will kneel before you, means he will come and be in your sight, presenting gifts. Maybe that's why he told me this morning that some of you worship your gifts and they mean nothing, because he gave them. He won't, because he said, I will not take the gifts and callings I've given to men. But if I chose to, I could rescind those. But he won't, because he's not going to go back on his word. So he will kneel before us, he will be in our line of sight, and he will present gifts and will guard us with a hedge of protection. You want to know the whole thing that we read about the demons? Who is it that Elohim is protecting against the demons? He said that there would be those would be protected. Who are those who are protected? It's the same those that he's presenting gifts to, the righteous. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you. In other words, inside of your mind, it will turn on. You will be able to see things you've never did. And I have to tell you, if you will chase as hard as you can after it, it will change you inside forever. And if it doesn't change you forever, then woe is you. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards you. When he does this, he begins to bring order into our life. Oh, now I understand what that means. And he will give you comfort and sustenance. Didn't say he would make the world perfect. It just means he will comfort you even when things don't go right. What did Peter do? Peter gave us comfort and sustenance by saying, when these things, hey, if you're punished on the earth while you're here for your right deeds, you'll be blessed on the other side while they're being punished for their wrongs over on the other side. You were the blessed one, not them. Then I feel all ashamed of myself. Maybe some of you can relate. I feel all ashamed of myself that I doubt him and question and I walk in unbelief and struggle so much. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us. That's what he's doing, folks. He wants us to be so convinced that nobody could ever. I love that statement that Clement made. Oh, Peter, I love you, brother, but even if you tried to convince me to believe something else now, I wouldn't do it. But I would also have you notice something here. I neither have ever done away with Yeshua, and I've adamantly offended people by saying there is a Yeshua, but he's not Jesus. The problem, I can't use that name in the way that people use it. I understand what they're saying, but the reason I can is because who that personage is that they've created is corrupt. Yeshua's over here, nobody knows who he is. I can explain who Yeshua was, the follower, the prophet, the truth giver, the one who, he in that false writing is the only thing that's telling the truth, other than James and Jude and Peter. Everything else is concocted. Oh, all Hebrews. and bring order. I hope with all of my heart some of you find what this covenant promise is offering us. How wonderful would it be to wake up and the day is beautiful no matter what's going on, just simply because you're sure of your walk with Elohim. See, that's that's a thing that goes on inside of you. It doesn't have anything to do with the weather. It doesn't have anything to do with the temperature. It doesn't have anything to do with your finances. It doesn't have anything to do with anything except that you have a knowing inside of you that he is with me. And if he is with me, then guess what? No matter what happens today, it's okay. Does anybody know who I am? Yehovah will lift up his wholeness of being and focus his stare on you. Wow. Can he, after what I've shown you, can he be talking about anything except the righteous here? And he will set in place everything you need to be whole and complete. Just wait. He's faithful. There's things I've been waiting on, visions I had 20 years ago. I'm still waiting on them. And you know what? I'm no more deterred today than I ever have been. I don't understand how he works. I'm not some magician, but he does. Wow. How amazing. How amazing. Isn't it amazing that the worse our society gets, the more he exposes? Are we perfect? I don't think that happens. Can we be better than we are? Every day. You stop and think about if you, for all the time that you haven't been, for all the years, if you're 65 years old, for 65 years, you haven't been trying to walk with Elohim. No matter who you are. And I get it. We believe, oh, well, I was a Christian for 40 years. Well, you were a polluted pagan pig. Wow. I was told I could break every commandment of Elohim and it was okay. Long as I went to church on the Sabbath, on sun worship day. Used to go and cry to him. Oh, Jesus, forgive me for being a bad one. Hey, could you hand me a light? I need to smoke a joint. In other words, when I said I was sorrowful, I was already thinking about what I was going to do next. I think all of you probably can relate to that. How amazing it is, this Elohim, Yehovah, the one God that gave the Torah to Moses. Pretty amazing thing, I think. What's even more amazing is that he's desirous for us to learn, as he has been pretty rapidly for the last couple of years. We cannot believe everything that's presented to us, even in the Bible. That's a gut kicker. I think about the times I thought that every word was ordained and inspired. Of course, he said that, right? Yeah. The one over there. Father, help us. Well, bless you guys. I hope that for those of you that come and watch, I hope that you're blessed. I believe Elohim wants us to know what the truth is and to find true love in him. Trust in him. It really isn't a cliche statement. It's really something that we should be very actively pursuing on a daily basis, to trust in him. Father, I don't understand it, but it must be good if that's what you wanted. Did you protect me? I've seen many times when things I wanted to happen didn't happen. Why didn't they happen? I guess because Elohim was trying to protect me. So I think when we begin to view him as a true friend and not, I've been saying for a while that It seems like, Christianity wants to get rid of the Torah, and the Torah was what was given to help us to know how to walk. Isn't that like a manufacturer of something saying, I don't want to give you the instructions because if I give you the instructions, you'll get it put together right. And if I don't give you the instructions, then you'll destroy it, and then you'll want your money back. And then here's man's response to that. I don't need no stinking instructions. I can know God all by myself. How many times have you heard that? And unfortunately, their words are true when they say something about the preacher only preaches for money. The words are true because of the words they're telling you are lies to begin with about how you can be blessed and be wicked. So you can't even condemn them for saying that because it's the truth. Right? Better that we know what the truth is and protect ourselves than that we don't know what the truth is and we're destroyed. Or at least that's my journey. I hope it's somebody else's as well. So, shalom to each and every one of you. I hope you're blessed. Let's pray and have an amazing week. Father, bless you for all your goodness, all your kindness, the truth that you've exposed. Some of these things, without ever having read this, I knew, and I've been trying to share, and I don't know that it's always gone over so great. So I find much relief in finding things that are from long ago that say the same words. I bless you for your goodness. I thank you for foreknowledge. I thank you for helping those that want to walk according to you. You prove it every day with your actions and how you affect our lives. I thank you for your goodness. Sorrowful for my failings. I'm sure that many here maybe feel the same way. Help us to not be condemned, but to recognize that it is our bad behavior that will condemn us. So, shalom to you, my Father. Shalom to each and every one of these that might come by to see these words. Amen. All right, guys. Shalom to each and every one of you. May you know the blessings of Elohim that make us rich and add no sorrow to our lives. Shalom.